Chapter 147. The conversation ended. Han Dong took the elevator and was ready to go to the old sewer. Since he came back alive, he had to greet the first teacher and thank Teacher Pasha for giving him the silver soft armor. If he didn't have the soft armor, Han Dong wouldn't have been able to carry out his plan of deception, even though he wouldn't have died. 3 months. At least it's easier than the 2-week limit. I'll go to the student dormitory according to the normal process of apprentice night enrollment. Although Teacher Pasha knows some of my secrets, it's not good to expose too much. When Han Dong came to the old sewer, he knew that Teacher Pasha would soon follow the knights out of the city. Most of the recent events were for special training on the 3rd floor of the Holy City. She would only come back during her free time. If that's the case, I'll go directly to the student dormitory. During this period of time, I'll put aside the matter of plague training and think about the necessities. It's not surprising that there's nothing in the Holy City. After all, the Destiny Realm is random. Even if I enter such a background, I won't necessarily steal this special one-time item. After returning to the ground, Han Dong rode the cemetery horse that could automatically identify the destination and went to the Apprentice Night dormitory for the first time. Because the Knight Academy covered a large area, the apprentice knights who could enter were regarded as the future hope of the Holy City. In terms of living, the Knight Academy provided the best treatment. There was a garden, a fountain, and 4 huge buildings that formed a square shape. Rather than a dormitory building, it was more like 4 luxurious hotel buildings. It was built with red and white bricks and had a dark vault structure. The dormitory was a luxurious residence where the apprentice knights could have a perfect rest after a day of hard work. It provided free dining, swimming, hot spring, and reading room services at any time. A 1-bedroom suite was used as the apprentice knight's private room. After Han Dong submitted the knight card, he immediately got his own room. The ownership would last until Han Dong died or became an official knight. The treatment is really good. However, for a group of young people who fight for human freedom, it's worth having such treatment. I finally have a chance to be alone. Han Dong had been waiting for too long. Due to the close care of Cass and the others along the way, as well as the fact that his body was injured, he did not have the chance to examine the great reward he had obtained from the clown's resurrection form. Pennywise's arm, that was right. It was the arm that Shanli had chopped off at the last moment. In fact, Han Dong had chosen to split up at the last moment and lure the clown away. They also chose the sewer exit as the location for the final battle. It was all because of his own selfish desires. The clown had schemed against Han Dong many times. Han Dong then paid the price of 1 arm to make up for it. In the end, he managed to achieve his goal without any mishap. Han Dong couldn't wait to check out the information related to this arm and learn more about the clown. Portable prison, sterile laboratory. The arm that was cut off from the clown's body had long since shed its exaggerated gigantic muscles, sharp claws, and hair that covered the back of the hand. He took off the sleeve that was still on his arm. A pale, soft arm with the English letters Joker engraved on the skin was laid flat on the examination table. The examination machine had undergone many changes and scanned the arm for as long as 10 minutes. This indirectly showed that the structure of this arm was far more complicated than that of the ghoul's arm. The clown's arm, name shown in purple font. Quality, unique, quality, from lowest to highest gray, rough, white, normal, green, high, blue, rare, purple, unique, pink, epic, gold, legendary, dark gold, empire. Weight requirement, 70 points, basic attributes, strength, B, reflexes, A, hardness, D, toughness, D, magic resistance, normal characteristics. Super regeneration. Consumes a certain amount of the host's energy to activate the flesh foundation that makes up the arm. All physical injuries on the arm will be healed or a new missing part will grow out. Note, regeneration will be affected by death, corrosion, burning, and other physical corrosive effects. Primal form. Activates the primal genes in the arm. This will cause a certain change in the arm's shape and increase all basic attributes by 30%. Unique characteristics. Cantrip can match any form of weapon of fate. Fusion efficiency plus 50%. Pennywise can control all cannons. Note, comes from Pennywise's arm. Due to the lack of the main body, it does not have complete characteristics. After collecting Pennywise's torso, the set effect will be activated. It seems that the clown's muscle gigantism does not exist in the arm. According to the note, I should need to get the main body of the clown to activate the almost abnormal muscle gigantism ability. However, this arm is strong enough. Once equipped with such an arm, the strength and speed of attack will be greatly increased. Not to mention that the arm also has this super regeneration feature. When in danger, it can completely block in front of the arm. Even if it is broken, it does not matter. Unfortunately, my current cell main body can't bear such an arm. At this stage, Han Dong only had 200 points of weight. Upgrading to LV2 took up 150 points of weight. Before the seed sprouted, Han Dong did not have the extra weight to control this arm. Phew! Han Dong took a deep breath. Although he could not control it, Han Dong was extremely happy. The corner of his mouth was raised to a very exaggerated degree. I didn't expect that the clown's arm would be classified as unique by my cell group. This is 2 levels higher than the ghoul's arm. Awesome. I already knew that I could not control this arm at this stage. Therefore, requirement is even more important. Even Cass, with her physical fitness, was scared when she participated in the night training. With my current body, even if I learned plague science well, it would be difficult for me to survive. I have to rely on requirement to improve everything. I will rest for a day. I will leave tomorrow. With this card of fate in hand, I will discuss this matter with Mr. Black and White in detail tomorrow. With the clock tower, this understanding of the destiny realm, and the card of fate I just got, I should be able to choose the background of the movie I want. A research madman like Han Dong did not plan to rest at all. If he was not a little sleepy and had just returned from Mr. Black and White's place, Han Dong wanted to leave now. I will take a shower and check the situation of the anomalies. Tomorrow, I will continue the easy solo destiny journey. Chapter 148. Night. Han Dong specially asked the dormitory administrator to send 3 portions of food. He had dinner with the 2 anomalies in the dormitory. The main purpose was to understand Toga Gonzalez. After all, Han Dong had forcibly brought him into the prison. The 2 of them were tied together through a master-servant relationship, unlike Chun-Li's relationship of close friends. Chun-Li also seemed to dislike Togu. She tried her best to stay close to Han Dong during the meal. During the meal, Togu's eating method was the most polite, and he ate the cleanest. After eating an extremely large portion of medium-rare steak, Togu continued to cut the plate into small pieces, chewed them up, and swallowed them. In the end, he even ate the metal knife and fork, as well as the small iron spoon used to drink soup. It was clean and environmentally friendly. His pure black eyes stared at the plate the entire time. He didn't say a word. He just sat obediently in his seat without any extra movements. Togu, you should be able to understand me, right? Following Han Dong's question, Togu slowly opened his mouth full of sharp teeth and emitted a burst of demon language from the depths of his throat. Due to their master-servant relationship, Han Dong could understand him. Yes, is there anything you need me to do? As long as you can communicate normally. To be honest, Han Dong didn't really want to treat the anomaly as a servant. Harmonious coexistence was the core idea that Han Dong adhered to. The main problem was that if he could build a good foundation for their relationship, the anomaly would also do its best to help. You can tell me if you have any physical needs. I heard that you like to whip yourself. I can provide you with props and a place in this regard. If you need me to do it, that's fine too. Self-flagellation was one of Toga's hobbies. When Han Dong pointed it out, his expression changed slightly. Thank you. In the future, we will have a chance to go to Old Dairy Town. Whether it's the clown's matter or your own matter, we can find a way to resolve it. If you have any ideas, you can tell me. As long as it's not too excessive, we can discuss it. When talking about Old Dairy Town, Toga's expression was calm. This was because the concept of home in his subconscious had shifted. Right now, cell number 2 was his home. Thank you. Toga's expression didn't change. Han Dong gestured for Chun-Li to return to the prison to rest. Let's stay in the room tonight. I'll test the strength of your body. He found an iron chain and closed the door and windows of the dormitory in a more euphemistic way. He was prepared to use their hobbies to get closer to each other. After an hour of continuous iron whip massage, Han Dong received a notification from his brain that his intimacy level had changed. Putting aside the master-servant relationship, Han Dong and Tugu's intimacy level had changed to neutral. The next day, Han Dong, who was sleepy, rushed to the stargazing room early in the morning to discuss his fate with Mr. Black and White. He went straight to the point. As soon as Han Dong arrived, he asked the clock tower if it could locate fate events. It can't be done. Even though the clock tower can control the method of entering the gate of destiny to a certain extent, and it can create items that assist in clearing the fate event, it can't interfere on a subjective level. However, there is one thing that can help you. Mr. Black and White held the power card that Han Dong had just obtained. Since the card of destiny can help you choose any fate event with a difficulty of and below, I can take you to the clock tower to check the background of the event that you want for Apprentice Nights with a difficulty of 2 stars and below. Thank you, Mr. Black and White. Well, this is also included in your wish. It's just that the clock tower is more special and important than the entire National Royal Knight Academy. Even ordinary knights are forbidden to enter the inner chamber of the clock tower. This time, I'll take you there. You're not allowed to speak during the whole process. Just follow me. Okay. Han Dong was also very curious about the clock tower. Whether it was the mysterious clock maker or the countless derivative functions of the clockwork device, they were all directly related to the clock tower. The nature of the clock tower might be an important secret of the sacred city. Mr. Black and White, will there be any risk of my secret being leaked? If there's a risk, I can wait outside the clock tower for the results. It's precisely because of the risk that I have to take you to the inner chamber in person. First, it's to show that you and I are teacher and student. Second, it's to let you directly obtain the right to enter the destiny space alone from the clockmaker. If you're later received by the clockmaker alone and he finds out your secret, it'll be really troublesome. To be honest, your wish is a bit excessive. I'll have to pay a lot for this. Thank you, Mr. Black and White. Come with me. Before leaving, Mr. Black and White directly changed into a white mask. A kind of ethereal aura spread out. This completely unfamiliar feeling made Han Dong very uncomfortable. The only person Han Dong knew and was familiar with was Mr. Black and White, who wore a black mask. In front of the clock tower, Mr. Black and White seemed to be using a special method to get in touch with the people inside the clock tower. Steam copper pipes slowly rose one by one. The clockmaker, wearing a whirlpool mask, walked out. Its aura seemed to be different from that of the clockmaker that Han Dong saw last time. It was very likely to be the clockmaker himself. Mr. White, Tommy. When the two met, they affectionately called each other's names and gave each other a polite hug. After Mr. Black and White explained the situation, the clockmaker thought for a while and led the two into the cabinet area of the clock tower. They came to the center of the clock tower through a mysterious gear elevator after many changes of position. Mr. White, you coming to the clock tower today, and this student entering the destiny realm alone, as if it didn't happen. After all, such a special individual event will cause trouble for me if it is reported. Deal with it as a private matter. Thank you, Tommy. I still believe in Mr. White's judgment. After that, the clockmaker turned its head to Han Dong and felt that the whirlpool mask seemed to be hiding a smile. Mid-level cabinet. In a unique crystal room, the wall was full of gear clocks of different styles. As the clockmaker moved the hands of all the clocks and let them point to a specific position. A crystal table rose in the center of the room, and on it was a thick book about the size of Tsi. This book recorded all the background names in the Destiny realm. In addition to the clock tower, its origin was also attributed to the Holy City Writers Association. The clockmaker flipped the book to the corresponding page. This part corresponds to the background of the events under 2-star difficulty, seed stage. Thank you. Accompanied by Mr. Black and White, Han Dong began to quickly flip through the book. The speed at which Han Dong skimmed through the pages surprised the two seniors. He could read all the text on 2 pages in 1 second and purposefully find the information he wanted. Found it. Chapter 149. Since this operation was classified without going through any registration or inspection procedures, Han Dong once again arrived in front of the Door of Destiny. If Cass and the others knew that Han Dong had just come out of the Door of Destiny alive and was trying to find a way to escape, they would definitely label Han Dong as a madman. Without hesitation, Han Dong stepped into the Door of Destiny. In a tea room in the clock tower, Mr. Black and White and the timekeeper sat opposite each other. The timekeeper wore a mask for a different reason than Mr. Black and White. It was mostly used to cover her face and avoid trouble. As they talked, she took off her mask. A woman's face appeared under the mask, even a little too delicate. Upon closer inspection, one would realize that she was not completely human. Through her pupils, one could see the gears and clockwork structure that were rotating inside. The various movements while drinking tea matched the rhythm of the second hand. "This is the first time I've seen you place such a big bet." The timekeeper started the conversation. "How is this a big bet? Compared to me, those old guys in the parliament should be betting as well, right? Recently, all kinds of secret invasions have frequently appeared in the civilian district and even the second level. If we don't make any major changes, I estimate that in less than 5 years, we will have to abandon the civilian district and further reduce our scope of activity. The situation will only get worse in the future." "You saw it?" "I don't dare to peek into the future directly. I only see the invasion of darkness getting worse and worse. However, there are few balls of fire in the darkness. If one of these balls of fire is magnified, it might be possible to dispel the darkness and reverse the process." "Mr. White, you really don't want to work in the clock tower? It's the same anywhere. You and those guys are here. It's enough." The view changed. Card of Destiny used. Han Dong once again appeared in the same video store as last time. However, the difference was that the discs and books on the shelves of the video store were all clearly visible. Han Dong was given the opportunity to choose any background below the level of Seed Stage. There were a total of 30 minutes to choose. Crystal Lake Incident, Basic, Escape from Suicide Town, Genetic Misfortune, Normal, Dawn of the Living Dead. The difficulty of the events below 2 stars was a stark contrast to the Clown Returns. There were basically no monsters as difficult to deal with as Pennywise the Clown. Even Jason in the Crystal Lake Incident had a strong physique and was almost immortal, but his intelligence was very simple. Unlike the Clown, who was full of tricks, there were very few variables. Of course, this was only Han Dong's subjective opinion. In reality, there might be many unpredictable crisis situations. Found it. Han Dong squatted in the display area of the game discs and pulled out a collection disc. Resident Evil 2. Reset. The enormous biochemical I printed on the cover was exactly what Han Dong wanted. Of course, what Han Dong wanted was something closer to the origin, a microscopic creature that the Holy City's technology could not touch. Introduction. The background of this game is a dual mode. Participants can play the role of Leon S. Kennedy or Claire Redfield. Due to their own reasons, they have to go deep into Raccoon City, where the biochemical virus outbreak occurred, to investigate the truth of the incident. Type: Biochemical Mutation. Event Difficulty. Seed Stage. Main Mission Requirements. Go deep into Raccoon City according to the requirements of the role. Complete the entire series of missions until you kill Dr. William Birkenhead and successfully escape. Stage Assessment. After each stage, the system will give a rating SC based on the overall performance of the stage. The rating of each stage will affect the quality of the final reward. Evaluation C. Fate Points. Evaluation B. Fate Points 1. Low probability of obtaining Card of Fate, Seed Level. Evaluation Fate Points 1. Low probability of obtaining Card of Fate, Seed Level. A set of S. TRs. Special Police Uniform, Normal Equipment. Evaluation S. Fate Points 1. Low probability of obtaining Card of Fate, Seed Level. A set of S. TAR. S. Special police uniform, quality equipment. Special reward, limited to A or S ratings after clearing the game. You can choose to enter the downloadable content mode, the fourth survivor. Play the role of Deaf Hank and escape from the nest. The downloadable content is more difficult than the original plot, but the process is shorter. After completing it, you can receive a special reward, 1 out of 3. 1. Deaf Hank's submachine gun, quality weapon, equipped with unlimited ammunition. Can also be self-loaded with attribute ammunition. 2. Deaf Hank's Medal of Honor, quality accessory. Can increase luck. Note: luck is a hidden attribute and will affect various probability type events. 3. Nest sample, G-Virus stock solution. Yes. Han Dong saw the item he urgently needed in the last column of the introduction. That's right. Han Dong's note to Mr. Black and White was the G-Virus, a one-time use stock solution. The current level of biology in the Holy City could only stop at the level of studying fungi. This type of virus was so small that even the Holy City's microscopic research level could not distinguish viruses from bacteria, let alone study it, according to what Han Dong had seen and heard when he was alive. As a biology professor, he was very interested in the background of the Resident Evil game series. Under the condition that the weight of the load did not exceed 200, it was the best way to strengthen the body that he could think of. It was the G-Virus, the most uncontrollable and highly variable virus in the Resident Evil game series. Compared to the T-Virus, the G-Virus could not only change the genetic factors of organisms, but it could also induce fundamental changes at the genetic level. This was the main reason why it was uncontrollable. The reason why Han Dong was interested in the G-Virus, in addition to its variability being the strongest in the Resident Evil game series, it also had a mutated characteristic. Dr. William, the first person to be infected with the G-Virus, had an eye-shaped structure on his mutated arm. In its final form, even if it could not maintain a human form, it still had an eye structure as its core. This characteristic might be able to resonate with the little magic eye, or even combine with it. I didn't expect to get the original solution directly from the reward. I originally planned to use a special method to get a small amount of the original solution from Dr. Williams' laboratory. That's great. This way, the risk can be minimized. Han Dong selected the disc and chose the lion line that he was more familiar with. The Resident Evil event officially kicked off. Leon S. Kennedy didn't hear anything about his new position for a few days, so he decided to drive to Raccoon City to find out. But he didn't know that a nightmare was waiting for him on the way. On the way to his workplace, the dim lights of the gas station caught the attention of the rookie police officer, and he decided to take a break. Similar to the opening of a story, it echoed in Han Dong's mind. When he opened his eyes again, he was standing in front of a dimly lit gas station in his police uniform. A police car with its door open was parked there. Needless to say, there was definitely something wrong with the convenience store inside the gas station. In the dark convenience store, a police officer who was bitten in the neck pointed to the warehouse area behind him. A man with festering skin and white eyes was gnawing on something inside. Warm-up stage. Escape from the gas station. Warm-up stage. This event is quite humanized. In order to get the highest rating in every stage, Han Dong went all out. Just as the zombies smelled Han Dong's scent and rushed toward him, for a moment, the scorching heat of hell and the gloomy evil energy overflowed together. The kitchen knife and the iron chain almost fell on the poor zombie's head at the same time. Chapter 150. Plagues included infectious diseases caused by fungi, bacteria, and viruses. The G-Virus was a very special existence. When Han Dong first came into contact with the game Resident Evil, he had thought about researching it. Needless to say, this fate event with the game as the background was not only complex and huge, but also mixed with many stages. The requirements of the stage had to be completed before the next stage could be entered. Before entering the next stage, many areas were sealed and were prohibited from being destroyed. TARS, police station, underground facility, First encounter with G1 Dr. William. Police station rooftop. Tyrant descends. Sewer series. Interaction with Ada Wong. Encounter with G2 Dr. William. Laboratory central area. Encounter with G3 Dr. William. Final boss battle. Tyrant is a humanoid weapon of the Umbrella Corporation in the Resident Evil series. Based on the highest-ranking officer of the Umbrella Corporation, General Shelby, a large number of Shelby clones were created, and the T-Virus was injected into their strong bodies to form a humanoid weapon with a stable consciousness. They had top-notch defense and strength. The Tyrant that appeared in this event was the T-103 model. There were a total of 5 stages. Han Dong had 5 bottles of stamina potion that he bought from the trading center. He gave it his all and tried to clear the stage as quickly as possible. The most important thing was, the Purgatory Monk, Togu Gonzalez, was a bug-level existence in Resident Evil 2. He only needed to let Togu walk in front. As long as he did not encounter the Tyrant or Dr. William, the zombie horde could not hurt Togu at all. No matter if it was a normal zombie, a zombie dog, or a licker, they all bit Togu. Crack! All of his teeth were broken. What should he do? With Togu's copper skin and iron bones, Han Dong only needed to follow behind and quickly collect the important items and clues needed to clear the stage. This allowed Han Dong to clear the stage without any injuries for a short period of time. The evaluation of each stage reached an S rating. Han Dong, who had experienced the 4-star difficulty of the Clown's Resurrection, faced the 2-star difficulty of Resident Evil 2 in single-player mode. It could be described as easy. There were also some parts of the entire process that were more difficult, especially when facing Dr. William after the G3 stage. His almost immortal characteristic had to be dealt with by relying on scene killing. Also, ordinary zombies were only at the level of an ordinary human. The cell essence of 100 zombies was only a little bit. Han Dong was too lazy to collect it. He didn't want to waste time. Han Dong considered that as the number of cell essences collected increased, the requirements for the collection target would also become higher. He would not be able to collect cells from low-level creatures. Just like in online games, killing low-level monsters would not give you any experience points. In the end, he obtained 5 cell essences from Tyrant and 7 cell essences from Professor William. However, there was another problem. Once the cell essence was collected, he would not be able to obtain a limb. Han Dong had once asked Chun-Li to cut off the Tyrant's arm, but when he brought it back to the prison, the arm disintegrated on its own. Therefore, in the future, he had to make a choice between the cell essence and the limb. In the case where there was no limb that Han Dong was particularly interested in, he would mainly collect the cell essence. The main plot has been completed. Comprehensive evaluation is S. You can choose to enter the downloadable content scene, The Fourth Survivor. At that time, you will play the role of Hank the Grim Reaper and escape from the situation where the team is completely wiped out. Do you want to enter the downloadable content scene? Yes. For a full 36 hours, he did not sleep or rest. Clock Tower, Gate of Destiny. As bursts of starlight gathered in the gate, sizzle. Immediately after, Han Dong, whose whole body was emitting hot smoke, half-knelt on the ground and muttered, "The difficulty of this downloadable content should be 3 stars. The last explosion of the gasoline truck almost caused an accident. But I got it." Han Dong, who was wearing the officer's uniform, even though some of his exposed body was severely burned, Han Dong could not suppress his excitement and laughed wildly. In his hand was a small, intricate suitcase. Inside was the reward obtained from the downloadable content process. G-Virus Original Solution. Destiny Item. G-Virus Original Solution Category. Medicine, one-time use quality. Excellent usage and special effect. Injecting this medicine can trigger a mutation at the genetic level, forming a G-Virus. High-risk warning. This medicine is extremely unstable. When the organism's own genes are changed in an instant, due to the cooperation of individual proteins, enzymes, and DNA itself, thousands of unpredictable results will occur. Once the mutation is out of control, the consciousness collapses and the deterioration of the cells will continue to divide endlessly. I finally got it. Han Dong was confident that he could control the G virus. After all, he had the plague control ability and the most suitable ghoul arm. In the description of the ghoul arm generated by the scanner, there was an important description. Note, the ghoul arm can be homogenized and upgraded. Modification, virus injection, secret strengthening, and other methods can improve the quality of the arm and give it additional attributes. It was this note that made Han Dong determined to work on the ghoul arm currently. There were only 28 points of weight available, which was not enough for Han Dong to change the whole body. Han Dong, who did not have much contact with movies and games, could only think of this way of upgrading, using the G virus to mutate and strengthen the body. The main mutated area was the ghoul arm. Then he controlled himself at the G1 stage to maintain the stability of his body and consciousness and to maximize his physical fitness. Finally, there was another reason. As a biology professor, Han Dong was also very interested in virus research. Looks like you got what you wanted. Mr. Black and White put his hands behind his back and stared at Han Dong, who walked out of the clock tower. Thank you, Mr. Black and White, for your help. In 3 months, I will definitely meet your requirements, pass the selection test, and participate in this year's night training. When you completely control this thing, come to the stargazing room and let me take a look. Okay. He rode on Mr. Black and White's private steam carriage and returned to school in the shortest time possible. In the wee hours of the morning, plus the 36-hour high-intensity battle, Han Dong looked exhausted and went back to sleep. He carried the suitcase containing the G-virus stock and returned directly to the dormitory building. Tomorrow, he would officially start the research on the virus and strengthen the arm with the virus. Just as Han Dong stepped into the student dormitory, he happened to meet a group of apprentice knights wandering around the hall area in the middle of the night. One of them had particularly sharp eyes and immediately saw that the suitcase in Han Dong's hand was not normal. It did not look like a product from the Holy City. The umbrella logo printed on it was also something that did not exist in the Holy City. A destiny item? For a moment, the 4 apprentice knights immediately got up and surrounded the sleepy Han Dong in an empty corner of the hall. Whether it was height or physique, Han Dong was completely incomparable to this group of people. He looked like he was no match for them. Chapter 151. As long as a youth could pass the newbie event and meet the standards of the National Royal Knight Academy, they would be able to obtain the status of an apprentice knight. The school was not that strict when it came to human nature, although the school rules prohibited apprentice knights from fighting within the school. However, the disciplinary committee would not care about things that were not too serious and did not have evidence. The most common was extortion and robbery. The 4 people who gathered in the student dormitory during the early hours of the morning had bad intentions. 3 days ago, this group of people accepted a difficult bounty mission from the Adventurers Guild. However, due to a wrong judgment, the situation worsened and they withdrew because they were afraid of death. The aftermath of the incident led to a large number of casualties in the civilian area. Because of this, they were pursued and fined by the Adventurers Guild. Their credit rating was lowered, and some of the bounty missions were restricted. Due to the high fine, they had to pay it back within a week. If they could not pay it back, their status as apprentice knights would be affected. He planned to collect enough valuables from some of the lower-level apprentice knights during this week. The 4 of them had never been good people. In their records, they had broken their promises many times, as well as black files that were suspected of blackmail. This group of people often pretended to form a team at the entrance of the Adventurers Guild. They tricked an apprentice knight into joining the team and blackmailed him during the subsequent mission. There were even worse actions. They deliberately sent their teammates into danger, causing their accidental death, and stole all the belongings of their teammates. This group of apprentice knights could be considered the stinky maggots of the school. However, because the amount involved was not large and they did things secretly, they could escape the punishment of the law every time. The leader was a 3-star, and the rest were 2 stars. Tonight, this group of people seemed to be quite lucky. They happened to meet this weak and sickly young man who was still holding a special item in his hand. Extortion and robbery could not be done casually. They had to find out the identity of the target first. You could not judge a book by its cover. Everyone knew this very well. Among this group of students, a mechanical apprentice activated the team function attached to the clockwork device. When the clockwork device was close, it could identify some basic information of the apprentice knight. It was originally a method to determine the basic information of teammates. Currently, this group of people was using it to verify the target of the extortion and robbery. The four of them had already forcefully brought Han Dong to the bathroom on the first floor of the building. No one knew what happened there. Warren Nicholas, a student of the mystery branch. Tutor is a normal lecturer. Just entered the school 2 weeks ago. It's still a lamb. We're really lucky. Han Dong's fate items, the ring and the dagger, were all stored in his inventory. In their eyes, Han Dong was thin and short, and his skin was yellow due to malnutrition. He was most likely a novice knight who had been promoted from the civilian area. They didn't need to consider his background at all. The leader was Halai, a 3-star mechanical apprentice. Unlike Ko Slin, he specialized in mechanical modification. Under his many layers of clothes was a special body that had been modified by metal. There was even a steam-powered core embedded in his chest. The mechanical modifications made Halai's body even stronger than the 3-star crusaders of the same level. Hand over all your valuables and the copper coins you have on you. Lavin, remember to install a jamming device throughout the entire process. Don't let this kid record anything. Yes, Halai had long been eyeing the suitcase in Han Dong's hands. He stretched out his hand to grab it. Ha! Han Dong suddenly reached out and grabbed Halai's wrist. They were actually evenly matched in terms of strength. GAGA. Moreover, the metal arm was being squeezed by Han Dong's right hand until it creaked. At the same time, Han Dong's gaze was extremely murderous. He had spent a lot of effort to obtain the G-virus stock solution. Just as he was about to bring it back for research, he was stopped by this group of people. Han Dong had always been a good young man who adhered to his core values. However, this matter touched Han Dong's reverse scale. At the same time, a strong plague aura spread out. Mysticism, plague, spread out. Halai and the others were also very experienced in combat. The four of them spread out at the same time and immediately put on goggles with filtering effects. Didn't he just enter the school for 2 weeks? How can he control the plague? Staring at the plague aura that spread out with Han Dong as the center, as well as the mushroom colonies formed on the clean ground, he didn't look like a freshman who had just entered the school for 2 weeks. It's 4 against 1. It's not a problem to suppress him. Snatch the briefcase in his hand and leave immediately. Don't make a big deal out of it. Han Dong immediately said, "Leave? Do you think you can leave?" What made Han Dong the most angry was this kind of low-level pest control. Humans were clearly in a dangerous situation, but there were still scumbags like this who were fighting among themselves. For a moment, a large amount of ash particles floated in the air, and the temperature rose sharply. Clang, clang, clang. Togu, who had just experienced the entire process of the battle in Resident Evil 2 and had honed his combat skills, appeared at the entrance of the bathroom. Taking heavy steps, his pure black eyes stared at the group of people. Mysticism, stitching creatures. It wasn't over yet. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The lights in the bathroom flickered inexplicably. In the last cubicle of the bathroom, a slender woman's palm that was emitting evil energy suddenly appeared between the gaps of the door. Creak, the door was slowly pulled open. A woman in a red dress with black hair was standing in the middle of the room. This scene scared the 2 people in the team who had evil spirit phobia. They were sweating profusely and kept retreating. Han Dong muttered, "Jammer, then you shouldn't be able to record and leave behind any evidence, right? Hand over all the copper coins you have, and I'll pretend this never happened." On the other side, Knight Cass, who was wearing casual clothes, and Koslin, who was wearing mechanical goggles and a pistol, hurried downstairs and met in the student dormitory hall. Han Dong immediately sent a message to his 2 teammates the moment he noticed that these people had bad intentions and were walking towards him. asking them to come downstairs and help. Cass and Coslin had set Han Dong as their special contact. Even in silent mode, they would receive a message notification. These scumbags actually found Brother Allen. It's a good opportunity to teach them a lesson. Cass was very clear that there was such a group of people who specialized in extorting new knights, but he didn't need to cause trouble. However, it was different when this happened to his friend. There seems to be a noise in the bathroom. Cass, who was burning with anger, activated Crusader Zeal and kicked open the bathroom door. However, the scene inside stunned him at the door, and he didn't take any further action for the time being. For young men were scattered in different parts of the bathroom. They were hanging on the cubicles, lying on the sink, lying limp in the corner, and burying their heads in the toilet bowl. Han Dong was squatting in front of these young men who had lost their ability to move. Face to face, he transferred money through a clockwork device. 3-star mechanical apprentice, Halai. 2 of his metal arms were directly broken by the iron chain. He curled up into a ball and moaned in pain. Han Dong said in a low voice, "Cass, there is no recording of this incident, and there are no bystanders. Can you solve it?" Cass noticed that Han Dong's dark circles were very deep. "Brother Allen, leave this to me. I have internal channels to deal with it. You seem to be very tired. Quickly go back and rest." "Thank you. I'll contact you again after a while. I've been a little busy recently. Go do your thing. Leave everything to me." Cass made an okay gesture, making Han Dong feel completely relieved. Just like that, Han Dong was already very sleepy. He patted Cass' shoulder and walked out of the bathroom with his suitcase. Cass stared at this group of underclass maggots who had been crippled and scared silly. He put his hands on his hips and revealed a very helpless smile. Chapter 152. The next day, Han Dong didn't wake up until the afternoon. He received a text message from Cass saying that yesterday's incident had been dealt with and that the 4 fellows had been severely punished. The sacred city treated matters like internal strife very seriously. Once discovered, they would be dealt with severely. Not only would they be expelled, but these fellows would also suffer physical pain and be imprisoned. Cass's identity is not ordinary either. He should be a noble. I have to thank him for this. Otherwise, I might have been in some trouble. Han Dong seized about 200 copper coins from these fellows yesterday. It was a good expenditure. After washing up, Han Dong, who was full of energy, immediately went to the biological experiment area of the prison. He carefully placed the test tube containing the G-virus stock solution on the examination table with his right arm. He directly asked, "Can the virus be combined with the ghoul's arm?" Following Han Dong's question, the examination table immediately analyzed the virus in the test tube. The internal program even began to simulate the relevant reaction after the virus was inserted into the arm. 10 minutes of waiting time. A report was generated. Analysis of the G-virus inoculation on the ghoul's arm. The main attribute of the ghoul's arm is plague. It has room for modification and strengthening. After hundreds of virus inoculation simulations, without taking into account other variables, the successful combination of the two was 71%. Danger warning: successful inoculation. The G-virus will promote strong and rapid cell division, greatly increasing the mutation rate and producing all kinds of abnormal cells. Once out of control, the host will lose their human form and their consciousness will collapse. Before inoculation, please ensure that the host has enough cell stabilizers or that the G-virus activity can be suppressed to a certain extent through other methods to control it to optimize and mutate. Uncontrollable mutation was the biggest flaw of the G-virus. I have to find a place that is sufficiently hidden. Taking the report, Han Dong called a carriage and headed to the Mystic Academy. As for controlling the G-virus, Han Dong had already made preparations. Moreover, Han Dong was only prepared to use 10% of the terrifying virus's effect. It was enough to maintain his body at the G1 level. Stargazing room. The room has been reserved for you. Good luck. There was no need for Han Dong to explain the situation. Mr. Black and White already knew that he would come. When Han Dong stepped into the stargazing room, A spacious room opened right in front of Han Dong. The room was completely isolated from the outside world. No matter what Han Dong was doing inside, no one would know. Suppress the G virus. Han Dong wasn't sure if his current mastery of plague control was sufficient. However, Han Dong was certain of one thing. This thing could definitely be suppressed. Book of the Dead Soul. I part copy. Han Dong flipped to a certain page of the book and activated his demonic eye. According to the requirements in the book, he perfectly copied the same large-scale array on the floor of the room. Han Dong sat in the center of the formation and proceeded with the most crucial step. The syringe containing the G virus was ready. At this moment, Chun-Li, who was dressed in red, appeared outside the formation. If the virus mutates out of my control, cut off my arm immediately. All right. With a kitchen knife in hand, Chun-Li held her breath and waited outside the circle. Huff! Huh! He took a deep breath. The syringe was inserted into the arm vein. Not a drop of G-virus stock liquid was left and injected into the ghoul arm. Zung, it was as if a bolt of lightning flashed through Han Dong's head. It was as if every cell in his right arm was pricked by a needle. All the pain stacked together and instantly transmitted to his brain. For a moment, Han Dong's eyes were bloodshot from the pain. His consciousness almost collapsed. However, this important process could not be disconnected. Han Dong had to maintain control of his body to understand and control the entire process of the virus mutation. In just 2 seconds, there were already larger dark red tumors growing and even hanging on his arm. Some new bone structures formed on the surface of the skin. It seemed to have defensive power, but it would add unnecessary burden to the arm. This kind of malignant mutation was not something Han Dong wanted to see. Plague control. Using the energy of the seed, Han Dong first tried to control the virus with plague control. But something was wrong. Although the mutation had slowed down, it was still going through a malignant mutation. Not long after, Han Dong grew the 6th and 7th fingers. The skin degenerated and turned black, causing the internal muscle tissue to grow and be exposed. The G-virus strong cellular induction was reflected at this moment. Han Dong's plague control was still not up to standard. He could not completely control the G-virus. There was no other way. Eye-opening. At the same time, the little magic eye cracked. The array was activated. Thousands of eyes appeared in the array area and looked at Han Dong's right arm. A high-level rule acted on the arm through the gaze of the eyes. It immediately suppressed the uncontrollability of the G-virus. The mutation of the body stopped instantly. Han Dong then used the little magic eye to correct the mutation of the arm. During this process, the energy of the seed was rapidly consumed. If Han Dong had not reached 4-star, the energy would not have been enough. Let's reverse the mutation of the unnecessary parts first. Under Han Dong's control, the tumors on the arm, the extra fingers, and the bones slowly disappeared. Then, through the eye, the G-virus was controlled to carry out a targeted high-quality mutation. It was perfectly transformed toward the mutated form imagined in Han Dong's mind. He was trying to create the most perfect G1 host form. At the same time, Han Dong also introduced a small amount of the most stable G-virus into the body through the arm. It was a hidden transformation of the whole body. It did not affect the human structure. It was aimed at increasing the physical fitness. Halfway through the process, he drank the magic potion that he had prepared in advance. The transformation was still ongoing. Creak, creak. It seemed that something alive was wriggling and was about to appear. At the junction of the right upper arm and shoulder, a huge eye that possessed self-awareness was slowly opening. The eye was not a decoration. It could help Han Dong observe the environment and even capture the dynamic images of the battle to fight back. This huge biochemical eye had a secret and direct connection with the little magic eye to a certain extent. This also meant that the G1 form was complete, to ensure that the G-virus remaining in the body did not mutate further. Han Dong drew the formation on the ground and imprinted it in the pupil of the main eye. This way, the G-virus could be permanently suppressed unless Han Dong took the initiative to erase the imprint of the formation. Done. After doing all this, the seed energy in Han Dong's head was completely exhausted. If this happened in the Destiny realm, it would be quite fatal. A strong sense of dizziness swept through the brain. Before he completely fainted, the camouflage effect of the faceless head was activated and transformed the right arm into a normal human arm. When Han Dong fell sideways, a red shadow flashed. His head fell on Chun-Li's lap. Chapter 153. The third floor of the Holy City. Only nobles had the basic right to live here, and these nobles were only ordinary residents of this floor. The landmarks of the third floor were frowny-faced throne room, 13 Knights Legion, bell tower, church headquarters, noble residential area, large association area, headquarters of the Authors Association, Alchemist Association, Steam Machine Association, and other large associations. There were also some mysterious forbidden places. The open area, low human traffic, and high overall quality meant that the third floor had wide and clean streets, various steampunk-style metal parks, and sound security measures. Apprentice knights, like Han Dong, could only enter the Destiny realm if they wanted to enter the third floor. Under other circumstances, they were not allowed to enter the third floor. In front of the entrance of the Maldini family's mansion in the noble residential area, after helping Han Dong get rid of a few despicable maggots, Cass took a carriage to this place, which was also his home. However, Cass rarely came back after embarking on the path of a knight. He would only come back once after he had achieved something great. At the entrance of the front flower courtyard, a few maids dressed in black and white stood on both sides, welcoming the young master home. A handsome middle-aged man was waiting at the entrance of the mansion. This person was Cass's father, Viscount Alex Maldini, a rather famous noble in the Holy City. However, compared to Cass, this Viscount Alex didn't have strong muscles, but he had the unique aura of a scholar. Alex had one son and 3 daughters. His youngest son, Cass, had always been Viscount Alex's favorite. "My brave and battle-ready son, your father is proud of your heroic deeds. I have already arranged for a banquet to be held for you tonight to celebrate your promotion to a 4-star apprentice knight. In addition, the Knight Academy has also specially sent you a letter." Letter? Cass opened the letter, and it read, "Due to Cass' outstanding performance in the previous Knight training, as well as passing the 4-star Destiny event, the Knight Academy's decision was made. Cass was allowed to participate in the next Knight training as the Vanguard leader after comprehensive consideration by the Knight Academy." This letter was very important. There were many unspoken rules in the Knight Academy. One of the important unspoken rules in the Knight training was excellent promotion. Those who performed well in the previous training could continue to participate in the next training. Once they passed the 3 training sessions, they would become the school's top student. When a talent tree was formed, he would be able to choose to join any Knight order and receive better treatment. His future would be limitless. After Viscount Ares learned of this matter, he couldn't stop smiling. Tonight, he would invite all the aristocrats over and show off to them. "Father, can the banquet be limited to our family and not be made public?" "You have plans?" "Yes. It really wasn't easy to come out of the Destiny realm alive this time. I want to treat my teammates who went through life and death situations to a meal, especially the mysterious apprentice who just joined the team. If it weren't for him, I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to stand here and chat with Father." Mysterious apprentice. "All right, it was originally prepared for you." Ares immediately instructed his personal butler to inform everyone about this matter, to reduce the size of the banquet and increase the quality of the dishes and service. Next, it was time for a private moment between father and son. Viscount Ares quietly asked, "Speaking of which, have you and that little girl Sophia come to a conclusion? Your mother thinks that this marriage is very good, and you both have reached the appropriate age. Being able to marry into the royal family is very meaningful for you or for our family." Cass decisively refused. "I'm currently wholeheartedly focused on studying Crusader. I don't have any plans in this area. Wait until I become a knight, then we'll talk about this matter." Ares was also a very open-minded father. He didn't have any intention of forcing his son to marry. All right, contact your friends. I still have some matters to attend to today, so I have to make a trip to the church's headquarters. The church's headquarters? Yes. Since about 10 days ago, I've been repeating a very strange dream every day. Although there's nothing wrong with my body, I keep feeling uncomfortable. I plan to go to the church to receive a holy baptism. I reckon that it's because I accidentally got contaminated when I was writing an article in the past, and it's the aftereffects of not being able to fully release the pressure. Don't worry, I only need to go to the church to get rid of it. Yes. Cass was still very concerned about these details. After his father left, he immediately asked the butler about the situation. The butler also said with a worried expression, "Master is a little strange. He's been sleepwalking for the past week. Every time he sleepwalks, he'll go to the backyard and dump a deep hole in the ground before returning to his room to rest." Cass vaguely sensed that something was wrong. "Father, did he go to any special places or attend any gatherings this month? I've been away from home 3 times. 2 of them were to attend large gatherings among the nobles. The other time, I followed a group of author friends to the opera house on the 2nd floor and watched a very long stage play." Opera house. When father comes back, I'll ask him about the details. Yes, young master. While Cass was doubtful, he also sent an invitation to the celebration party to his team members. Stargazing room. Han Dong suddenly woke up on the bed. Even though his consciousness was still in a muddled state, he immediately had a conditioned reflex and quickly looked at his right arm. A thin and yellowed arm came into view. The arm was exactly the same as before. Of course, this was in the camouflage mode. The real right arm could not be called a ghoul's arm. Currently, Han Dong could feel the real qualitative change brought about by the G virus in his arm. Not only that, Han Dong's whole body was strengthened. Strength, reflex, regeneration, and other basic attributes were all improved to a certain extent. Han Dong immediately got out of bed, jumped, punched, and ran in the spacious room. An irrepressible smile hung on his face. Han Dong muttered, "Finally, I've finally gotten rid of the shackles of being an ordinary person. If I go to the clown's resurrection form with my current body, I'll definitely be able to fight with the clown for hundreds of rounds and take him down." The potential power in his body gave Han Dong great confidence. Just as Han Dong was showing off his body's performance, the bedroom door opened. Mr. Black and White was standing at the door. "Is this what you plan to do?" "Very good. If you continue like this, you should be able to reach the level I expect in the remaining 3 months." Mr. Black and White gave a high evaluation of Han Dong's changes. "It's all thanks to you that I got an important opportunity to go to the clock tower." Mr. Black and White smiled and continued. "Your good friend should be looking for you. Remember to go." "Good friend?" Han Dong immediately reacted and checked the clockwork device. He received a fax invitation from Cass. "The Maldini family is hosting a banquet. Cass is really a noble." Mr. Black and White, "Is there something wrong with the Cass family?" Han Dong guessed that there might be something wrong with Mr. Black and White's initiative to bring up this matter. "You'll know when you get there. After you're done with this, you can relax and go through 3 months of hard training. You can come to me if you need anything." "Okay." Chapter 154. Since Han Dong did not have a noble identity, he could not go to the 3rd level without a proper reason. Cass made a special trip to pick him up at the side door of the Night Academy. When the female students walked by, their eyes would stay on a steam carriage for at least 5 seconds. The carriage was extraordinary. It was inlaid with copper edges and was even printed with the special seal of the Maldini family. Cass, dressed in formal clothes, was standing in front of the carriage. The front was stacked neatly. A white shirt was paired with a dark blue tuxedo that was short in the front and long in the back. Light gray high-waisted trousers. Cass's height, appearance, and unique aristocratic temperament could bring out 120% of the potential of this outfit and attract 99% of the female students' attention. He would occasionally glance at the pocket watch in his hand and spend most of his time looking at the side door of the school. During this period, Cass's gaze would not stop on any member of the opposite sex. He was only looking for Han Dong among the crowd entering and exiting the school gate. When he saw Han Dong, dressed as a crow, walking out from the side door, Cass immediately smiled knowingly and went forward to greet him. "Where are Miss Sophia and Coslin?" Sophia lives on the 3rd level. Coslin has a membership card of the Steam Machine Association and has already arrived in advance. Speaking of which, why did Brother Warren only reply to my message now? I thought you had something to do and couldn't come. When Han Dong woke up from his exhausted state, it was already past 4 in the afternoon. It was indeed a little late. I've been busy with some things in the stargazing room and didn't pay much attention to your message. I can understand. You are a student of the Crow Prophet. The pressure of studying every day must be great. Otherwise, you wouldn't have such strength. Cass deliberately approached, put his arm on Han Dong's shoulder, and squeezed slightly. Is your body stronger than before? More or less. Han Dong did not want to expose the secret of his right arm. The matter of the clock tower was confidential and troublesome to explain. Let's go. We should be able to make it in time for the banquet to start now. Don't be restrained. Tonight's banquet is specially set up for our team. Enjoy the food to your heart's content. Cass bowed slightly and let Han Dong board the carriage first. As the steam pistons in the carriage moved up and down, the steam carriage immediately sped toward the aristocratic residential area on the 3rd level. Cass's father was only a viscount. However, the size of this mansion was more than twice the size of the Baker residence on the 2nd floor. The white steel door was hollow and decorated with flower carvings. At least 3 gardeners were in charge of the garden. A kerosene lamp stood 5 meters apart from the path in the front yard. After bypassing the fountain garden area, a medieval noble mansion appeared in front of Han Dong. It was mainly dark gray, and the surface of the wall was penetrated with metal pipes that transported steam, providing heating and hot water 24 hours a day. Cass, with your financial situation, you should be able to buy a full set of high-quality Fade equipment, right? As a matter of principle, I won't ask for anything from my family. Moreover, having too many pieces of equipment was not a good thing. It was enough to have a suitable weapon. During the period of apprentice night, it's best to exercise your body. After all, your equipment may be damaged. In a life and death situation, only your body is worth relying on. Yes, it was getting late. Under Cass's lead, they arrived at the huge banquet hall. Crystal chandeliers, black iron fireplaces, animal heads, and other decorations. On the long marble dining table, there was a metal candlesticks placed 1 meter apart. All kinds of delicious and sumptuous food were constantly being served on the table. In addition to the members of the team, Cass's 3 sisters were also gathered here. Due to their family's genes, they were as beautiful as fairies and had extraordinary temperaments. Currently, they had all married into rich families. However, there was also a special person who had an aura that overshadowed the 3 blonde wives. When Han Dong saw this person, his face was full of awkwardness. "Nicholas, you seem to be very busy recently?" There was a murderous sharpness in the tone of the question. Han Dong hurriedly explained, I've been busy in the stargazing room recently. I don't have any free time. I just finished my work this afternoon, so I rushed over." The person who came was Sophia's cousin, Retribution Paladin, Wino Celeste. When the incident of the Clown's Resurrection, Part 1, ended, Celeste was at the entrance of the clock tower and specifically signaled Han Dong with her eyes, asking him to privately invite her out when he was free. Unexpectedly, Han Dong did not contact her at all these days. This was already the 2nd time. Today, Celeste, who was originally with her cousin, heard that Cass was treating everyone in the team to a meal, and Han Dong was also among them. She decisively came along. With Celeste's arrival, the level of the entire banquet was raised to another level. Cass's mother also appeared to be extra friendly. She even could not wait to talk about Cass and Sophia. "Nicholas, that seat was specially reserved for you. Hurry up and go." The direction Cass pointed at was the empty seat beside Celeste, the seat that was specially arranged for him. "Don't mess with me." Han Dong only dared to think this in his heart. He did not dare to say it out loud. After taking his seat, Han Dong noticed that Knight Celeste was wearing a special outfit for the banquet today. A corset and a pure white lace dress, and a bright crystal headdress on her head. Her aura also changed accordingly. However, Han Dong was not interested at all. He was slightly embarrassed the whole time, and he was very careful while eating. "Why are you afraid that I will eat you?" During the meal, Celeste's voice sounded in Han Dong's mind. "No." Following that, Celeste said in an almost commanding tone, "I will stay here tonight. You stay too." "What?" Han Dong was stunned. He felt that this sentence was ambiguous. "I just asked you to stay. I didn't say that we will stay together. There is no other meaning. When I came here today, I vaguely felt that it was different from the last time I came to Maldini's house. There was also a slight fluctuation in the holy light. Recently, there have been many strange incidents in the holy city. Seeing that Cass is taking special care of Sophia, I will let him stay for one night." "Okay." Thinking of Mr. Black and White's words, Han Dong also nodded. "Also, I have something to talk to you about alone. It will be around 9 o'clock in the evening. Remember to come to my room, and don't let anyone know." Okay." Han Dong took a few more glances at the beautiful blonde knight, but he really did not have any emotional fluctuations or physical signs that a normal man should have. He always felt that dealing with Celeste was a troublesome matter. However, Han Dong was still very concerned about the situation in Cass' family. As far as Han Dong was concerned, he did not see any problems as long as the little magic was not open. Chapter 155. After the banquet. Under Cass's warm invitation, he led Han Dong to tour the various areas of this multi-story mansion. Simply put, Cass's family was divided into two areas, east and west. It looked like a single building, but the inside was forcibly separated by a wall that was 3 meters thick. The east building was the real living, dining, and activity area of the Maldini family. The whole family's daily life was carried out in the east building. The servants lived alone in the ordinary house in the back garden. What about the west building? The entire west building was designated as the creative area by Viscount Aries. The real identity of Cass's father, Viscount Aries, was a writer and one of the core members of the Holy City's Writers Association. He had made great contributions to the construction of the Holy City and the future of mankind, and was conferred a title of nobility. The entire west building had a total of 3 floors. The first floor was for the collection of outstanding works, as well as the library, the rare collection room, and so on. The second floor was the activity room, with a fencing room, an indoor swimming pool, a steam sauna, and a massage room. Only 3 trustworthy old servants served on this floor. When Aries was tired or unwell, he would come to the second floor to relax and reduce the pressure of his creation. The third floor was the creation room. Unlike the first and second floors, this floor prohibited anyone from entering, not even family members. Aries' creation room was absolutely confidential. This was the basic principle of being a writer. In addition, Han Dong also learned. Cass's father, for some reason, left his original family after he was conferred a title of nobility. He lived alone in this mansion with his wife. He was completely separated from his parents and brothers, and only met occasionally. This seemed to be to reduce some of the burden of life and avoid some family disputes and chores, so that he could concentrate on creation. It took nearly half an hour to tour all the areas of the East Building. While Han Dong was lamenting how good it was to be rich, he was also secretly observing the basic situation of this building. Everything was normal. All the members of Cass's family, the air quality in each area of the building, and the situation in the corners were normal. In fact, Han Dong was the only one who followed Cass to tour the mansion. Sophia and the rest had been here no less than 3 times. After dinner, the butler arranged rooms for them, and they returned to their rooms to rest. As for the short Castellan, he had to go back to work overtime tonight due to his mentor's request, so he didn't stay the night. Cass and Han Dong had their arms around each other's shoulders as they walked through the passageway. Their relationship was quite good. Of course, that was only Cass's side. "By the way, Brother Alan, tonight is a great opportunity for you. Since Knight Celeste is willing to stay here, I don't think I need to explain her intentions, right? Don't think too much. Actually, Knight Celeste had chosen to stay because she had smelled a strange scent. Cass, is there anything wrong with your family recently? It was obviously impolite to talk about someone else's family directly. However, the two of them had an extraordinary relationship, so Han Dong directly said it. Knight Celeste smelled something strange. It's very slight. She's not too sure. I followed you around the East Tower and didn't sense anything out of the ordinary. There aren't any major problems at home. We only discovered the minor problems today. Cass told Han Dong about Viscount Aries' recent abnormal situation. Han Dong had a puzzled look on his face. Same dream? Sleepwalking to the backyard to dig a hole? I only know of these abnormal situations. Today, my father even suggested to go to the Holy See headquarters and personally received the Holy Light baptism from a high-grade priest. Theoretically, there shouldn't be any more problems. Han Dong's focus was different from Cass. You said before that the servants all live in the backyard, right? Cass nodded. After they get off work at 8 o'clock at night, they all return to the backyard to rest. They are only allowed to enter the main house again at 6 o'clock the next morning. In other words, they aren't in the main house at night unless they receive a request to be served. Normally, they won't be in the main house. This is my father's request. After night falls, he only likes to stay with his family. Only then will he feel safe. Han Dong continued. That's right. The butler said that your father sleepwalks and digs in the backyard. This information is very narrow. After all, the butler only lives in the backyard and doesn't know the situation in the main house. Before your father sleepwalks, he might be doing something else in the main house. After Han Dong said this, Cass suddenly realized something. Tonight, let's pay attention to your father's situation. If his sleepwalking symptoms disappear after receiving the Holy Light baptism, then everything will be fine. If his sleepwalking happens again, we'll follow him secretly and see what he's doing. Knight Celeste is also here. Even if there's trouble, she can solve it quickly. Try not to hurt your father. Thank you, Brother Lon. It's nothing. Let's rest for a while first. We'll be more energetic in the middle of the night. Okay. Han Dong was arranged to stay in the guest room area on the second floor of the East Building. Celeste and Sophia also stayed on this floor. Cass's sisters returned home after the banquet. Cass, who had not been home for a long time, also stayed in the guest room area on the second floor. As for the master bedroom area on the third floor of the East Building, only Cass's parents stayed there. It's almost 9 o'clock. I wonder why Wino is looking for me. Just as Han Dong looked at the time of the date and was about to go out. Asterisk knock knock knock. Asterisk someone knocked on the door. When he opened the door, he saw a blonde beauty leaning against the door. She had changed out of her clothes during the banquet. Celeste, who was standing at the door, was wearing light casual clothes with a corset, a white shirt, and long boots. Han Dong felt that this kind of image suited her better. Sister Wino, didn't you ask me to look for you? Sophia insisted on sleeping with me, so I had to come here personally. Don't tell anyone that I came to look for you tonight, understand? Yes. Celeste took the only chair in the room and looked at Han Dong from head to toe. What does it feel like to bring the corruption ability into the destiny space? Well, it's quite useful. Han Dong smiled awkwardly. Anyway, thank you for protecting Sophia's safety. Cass was a bit too reckless. He actually chose a 4-star chain mission. It's a miracle that you guys came out alive. Is that so? What else do you know besides laughing like an idiot? Come here, Celeste shouted, and Han Dong could only walk over slowly. Who knew? Celeste took out a special green card from her pocket. The card had a special picture of golden wheat on a crown printed on it. This is a thank you gift from Sophia's father. This is a personal noble identity card. With this card, you are a normal noble, but your family does not enjoy the privileges of a noble. This is not something that can be easily obtained. Keep it well. It will make it easier for you to move around freely in the Holy City. Just as Han Dong took the card, a voice rang in the air. Asterisk knock knock knock. Asterisk someone knocked on the door. Chapter 156. After knocking on the bedroom door, a rather magnetic voice was heard. "Brother Lon, I'm here to discuss tonight's operation plan with you." It was Cass. Cass was restless in his room when he thought about his father's problem and the feeling of unfamiliarity when he returned to his family. He could not hold it in any longer and decided to talk to Han Dong. Cass even thought of staying together for the night and keeping an eye on the situation upstairs. Wait. After waiting for a minute, Han Dong opened the door. In the meantime, Celeste had already hidden in the wardrobe. If she took the initiative to look for Han Dong, especially in Han Dong's room in the middle of the night, if this matter was leaked out, it might affect her reputation as a member of the Holy Knights. She hid in the wardrobe and quietly waited for Cass to leave. Who knew? Cass could not stop talking at all. Han Dong tried to use some indirect words to get Cass to go back to his room to rest. Who knew that not only did Cass not return to his room, he even called Sophia over because it was more convenient for the team to act together. In addition, only one person needed to be on night watch, while the other two could sleep and rest. Once there was movement upstairs, the night watch would wake everyone up. Han Dong had a helpless expression on his face regarding the development of the situation. If this went on, the noble knight, Celeste, might be locked in the wardrobe for the entire night. "Where's your sister?" Cass asked. If there were any serious situations tonight, they might need this disciplinary knight's help. Sister said that she had something to do and left half an hour ago. Official knights bear a heavier burden than us. She probably had something to deal with in the Knights Guild. Since that's the case, I'll leave tonight's matter to everyone. Sophia, you and Brother Lon should rest first. I'll keep watch. I'll wake you up if there are any abnormalities. At this moment, Han Dong suddenly interrupted and strongly requested, "I'll keep watch. I asked Cass to help me deal with the miscellaneous matters yesterday morning. You probably didn't sleep well, right? Let me do it tonight." "Okay, I really didn't sleep well." Cass thought of Han Dong's increasingly strong body and agreed to his request. Sophia, who was at the side, immediately cast a very grateful and cute little look. This way, she could sleep together with Cass. Although both of them were wearing outerwear, Sophia was already satisfied to be able to lie on the same bed as Cass. Cass fell asleep not long after lying down. Although Sophia's eyes were closed, she wasn't sleepy at all. Her little heart was thumping nonstop. Her slightly chubby little hand moved slowly on the bed, wanting to touch Cass's sturdy arm, but she immediately retracted her hand when she got close. He kept repeating this contradictory action. Han Dong sat in front of the desk, quietly waiting for the girl in the team to fall asleep so that Celeste could come out of the sealed wardrobe. Han Dong glanced at the blinds of the wardrobe from time to time with a helpless expression. They waited for 2 hours. Only then did Sophia's ambivalence gradually ease. She gently grabbed Cass's arm and fell asleep. Creak, the wardrobe door opened. Celeste, who was hiding inside, was already sweating profusely. Part of her white clothes was even soaked with sweat. When she left the dormitory, she deliberately took off her boots and stepped barefoot on the wooden floor to avoid making unnecessary noise. Celeste put her index finger on her lips, indicating that Han Dong shouldn't talk to her. However, just as she walked to where Han Dong was sitting, her keen senses as a knight made her suddenly turn her head. Sophia had already sat up slightly on the bed and was staring at her with an adorable expression. Sophia hadn't fallen asleep from the beginning. After all, she was too excited. She opened her eyes when she felt a slight movement in the room. She saw her sister and Han Dong leaning against the desk with a pair of long boots in their hands. Moreover, from Sophia's point of view, the two of them were leaning against each other, and her sister was sweating profusely. It was as if the two of them had just finished doing something. Sophia, Celeste's face was red, and she tried her best to keep her sister quiet. Sister, you? Sophia's mind was a mess. She couldn't imagine what she was seeing. At the same time, the sound of footsteps from upstairs could be heard clearly. Unfortunately, the 3 hands of the gear clock on the desk just happened to coincide with the number 12. A strange aura pervaded the air. Cass! Han Dong couldn't care about these trivial matters and quickly woke Cass up. Cass, who suddenly woke up, was slightly surprised by Celeste's appearance in the room, but he was most concerned about the footsteps coming from the third floor. Judging from the direction of the footsteps, his father was definitely not up at night. It sounded more like he was walking around in the room. Han Dong immediately asked, "The butler said that your father went to the backyard to dig while sleepwalking. What time was it?" "Between 4 and 5 in the morning. The time now is midnight. There's still a 4-hour gap. When your father was sleepwalking, other than digging, it's very likely that he was doing something else in the house. Let's hurry up." "Okay, be quiet. Don't be discovered." Due to the strange things happening to his father, Cass was still a little anxious and walked in front. Han Dong deliberately walked at the back and reminded her softly, "Sister Wino, think about the Maldini family first." "I know." If there was enough light, one could see that Celeste's cheeks were red. Her family and her identity as a member of the Holy Knights made her care about these details. "Sister Wino, you're in charge of covering the rear, right? I'll lead the way." "You lead the way?" This matter doesn't seem simple. When the clock passed 12, I could already feel a clear, strange aura spreading in this mansion. "Don't worry. At least I won't be contaminated. Also, it's safest to have Sister Wino cover the rear. Although the possibility is very small, we can't rule out the possibility that the Cass family's mansion has been completely invaded." He had to consider the worst-case scenario and come up with the safest solution. "Okay." Celeste held a special fate item in her hand. Holy Artifact, Celtic Cross of Judgment. It could use the holy artifact as the core to construct any kind of light artifact. Previously, when he was fighting against Fallen Baker, the light shield and some long-range holy light attacks were all the effects of this cross. Once any evil beings appeared, Celeste would activate the cross and destroy them instantly. With Celeste in charge of covering the rear, Han Dong only needed to consider the situation in front. "Cass, I'll lead the way. Recently, I've learned a new skill specifically for observation and suturing." Chapter 157. Suturing? Aren't you majoring in the study of plague? It's all in the field of mysticism. Before the talent tree is established, I'll try to learn all kinds of things and see what suits me the most. After saying that, Han Dong deliberately took a needle and thread between his eyebrows and pretended to thread it. Of course, Han Dong had also learned a little about the basics of sewing. He did this just to disguise his magic eye as a sewing ability. The moment the little magic eye opened, Han Dong tried his best to suppress the release of corruption back into the eye, but there was still a slight aura of corruption around the eye socket. However, as Maldini's mansion was already filled with a strange aura, Cass and the others did not notice it. Only Celeste, who was walking at the back, cast a puzzled gaze and muttered softly, "This kid learned a new trick again." Han Dong also sensed Celeste's gaze and felt a wave of helplessness. "Phew! It seems that little magic I still needs to be further polished. Even if I suppress it with all my might, there will still be a small amount of corruption leaking out." Cass didn't have any suspicions because of the absolute trust between me and him. Now, it seems that it's impossible to fool an official knight. Before the night training begins, I must disguise it to be no different from a sutured eye. As little magic eye was activated, Han Dong finally saw something unusual in the mansion. A thin layer of fog appeared in the mansion. It covered the door, the lighting, the copper metal parts, and the corner area. As far as Han Dong was concerned, he could not feel the danger of the fog. As the team stepped onto the third floor, the footsteps in the master bedroom disappeared. The master bedroom door was tightly shut, and there were no signs of it being opened. He didn't leave the room? Is he just sleepwalking in the room? Something's not right. This was Cass's house, and it was very impolite to barge into the master bedroom at night. It might even anger Viscount Ares. However, tonight was also a great opportunity to find out the truth. Cass had already thought of an excuse and came to the door of the master bedroom. "Wait for me. I'll knock on the door." Knock, knock, knock. He knocked continuously, but there was no response from the master bedroom. Realizing that something was amiss, Cass struck the lock with his palm, completely shattering the mechanical components inside. The loud sound of the door being destroyed still did not disturb his parents in the master bedroom. When Cass pushed the door open and entered, Han Dong and the others immediately followed. The kerosene lamp was switched on, and the warm flame immediately lit up the master bedroom. Only Cass's mother was lying on the bed, but Viscount Alex was nowhere to be seen. Celeste immediately went forward and examined Cass's mother. Her breathing is normal, but her mind has been affected. She has fallen into a deep sleep. This state should last until morning. Cass breathed a sigh of relief when he heard that his mother was safe and sound. Next, he needed to solve the mystery of the escape room. The windows and bedroom doors were locked from the inside. The opening of the fireplace can't pass through a person's body. How did Viscount Ares leave the room? The fog has thickened. The fog in the master bedroom is about 3 times thicker than outside, but the fog is temporarily harmless, and I have no idea what it is for. Other than that, with little magic eye, as a special vision, Han Dong could also see the footprints left behind on the wooden floor. It was the same as the footsteps he had heard before. Viscount Ares had walked around the room. A circle of regular and overlapping footprints was left on the floor. It was a perfect circle without any deviation. Just as Cass and the others were searching the master bedroom in an attempt to find the secret compartment, Han Dong recalled the footsteps he had heard before. Following the same frequency, he compared the footprints and began to walk in circles. Exactly 10 circles. The wall facing the large bed in the master bedroom began to slowly turn. The smooth mechanical movement did not produce any sound of friction throughout the entire process. A secret passageway connecting the east and west buildings was revealed. Viscount Ares could use this secret passageway to go directly from the master bedroom to the 3rd floor of the west building. It was also an important area for the creation of works. Cass obviously did not know anything about this secret passageway. Moreover, he rarely went to his father's private creation area. Just as the secret passageway was revealed, Han Dong saw white fog constantly gushing out from the dark and deep secret passageway. He even caught a glimpse of some pale white tentacles that were both real and illusory within the fog. Cass and the others could even see a small amount of white fog permeating the passageway with their naked eyes. Buzz. The holy cross in Celeste's hand was activated. With the cross as the core, a holy light armor appeared and covered Celeste's entire body. At the same time, she also put on the goggles. Due to the influence of the invisible fog, the clockwork communication array was affected and could not transmit any information. Celeste made a decision. Next, Nicholas and I will explore deeper. The 2 of you will report any abnormal information to the Knights. The emergency level of this matter is estimated to be level 2, and it may be higher. What? Although Cass also noticed the abnormality, he did not expect the situation to be so serious. Go directly to the Holy Knights and report my name. It's best to have at least 3 official knights proficient in Holy Light come to assist. Okay, I'll go right away. Han Dong reminded. Put on the goggles before going. The fog has already spread throughout the mansion. Han Dong, who was standing in front of the window, observed that the entire Maldini mansion's territory, including the front garden area, was filled with fog. When Cass and Sophia left the mansion, they might be ambushed. I'll leave my father's matter to you. If you can suppress it, try not to hurt him, Celeste said solemnly. Viscount Alex is an author of great importance to the Holy City. I will do my best to ensure his safety. Thank you. Cass accepted the holy light blessing, put on the goggles, and held Sophia's hand as they left the mansion together. Celeste stared at the secret passage and said while gritting her teeth, I didn't expect that even the nobles on the 3rd level would be affected. However, it could also be caused by the risks of being an author. Han Dong asked, do we continue to go deeper or wait for the knights to come? Celeste continuously buffed herself and Han Dong with buffs and pointed to the entrance of the secret passage. Continue to go deeper. Anyway, you're not afraid of contamination, right? The target has just started to move. If we can seize the opportunity to control Viscount Ares, we might be able to solve this matter directly. At that time, we can find the root of the problem from him, and I will kill the mastermind behind it. Besides, opening the secret passage might have already alerted the enemy. If we stay here, it might worsen the situation. Viscount Ares might also be in danger. Chapter 158. Han Dong stood by the window. He stared at Cass and Sophia, who had successfully left the mansion. He lightly touched the crow mark on the back of his hand. A black shadow flickered, and the bird-beaked doctor's outfit covered Han Dong's entire body. Going deep into the secret passage, he went to the third floor of the West Building, the Creation Room. Little magic, I seem to be a bit of a hindrance in the misty environment. The thick white mist even made Han Dong unable to see the path clearly with little magic eye. Moreover, the tentacles that were both real and illusory would also distract Han Dong. After careful observation, Han Dong found that the tentacles were just illusions made by the mist and were not too dangerous, so he temporarily turned off little magic eye for convenience. His vision was normal. There was only a small amount of white mist attached to the ground in the secret passage, so it would not interfere too much. It was time to go deeper. From the structure of the building, the East Building and the West Building were only separated by a 3-meter thick wall. But this secret passage was folded back and forth due to its design, resulting in a length of tens of meters. It seemed to deliberately increase the time to reach the third floor of the West Building. While walking, Han Dong carried a portable kerosene lamp for illumination. Sister Wino, what is the role of the writer profession? It seems to have a very high status in the sacred city. You don't know this? Let me explain it to you briefly. Writers are also known as communicators in private. Communicators? That's right. Not just anyone who casually writes something can be called a writer. Only those who have extraordinary talent in the spiritual aspect can be listed as writer. There are two main roles of a writer. First, communicate with the destiny space. Through their own talent, they can often create some articles that reveal the secrets of the destiny space. Sometimes, they can even write a storyline that corresponds to the destiny event, greatly increasing the survival rate of the knights in the difficult dungeons. This kind of targeted story creation will consume a lot of the writer's energy, only for the destiny events of knights and above. In addition, the former Writers Association and the Clock Tower also created a destiny book containing the corresponding titles of all the events, which is of great significance to the understanding of the destiny space. Secondly, some writers with excellent senses could even combine their creative inspiration with their dreams at night. They could walk out of the city wall in a high-dimensional manner without being detected by the living beings outside the city. They provide us with very direct information about the outside of the city and provide us with early warning of some dangerous situations. For example, last month, one of the core members of the Writers Association spied through a dream to the west of the city wall. There was a newly built Fallen One's lair in a valley nearly 4,000 meters away. When the knights received the information, they decisively attacked and annihilated the high-grade life form that was still in the developing stage and a spatial rift that had yet to stabilize. Once the high-grade life forms use the spatial rifts to create portals and nests, they will pose a huge threat to the Holy City. Communicating with fate outside Dreambreak City? Is this what a writer is? That's right. Being an author is of great importance to the Holy City. But on the other hand, becoming an author is also extremely risky. Because writers are stronger than us in the mental brain and have the ability to spread, they are easily targeted by the creatures outside the city and are easily affected. Therefore, the Holy City's Writers Association was established, and the members of the Writers Association were given the title of nobility, allowing them to live peacefully on the third floor. The entire third floor is covered by a mental barrier, further isolating and protecting the writers from being affected by long-range attacks. They do their best to isolate the creatures outside the city from interfering with them. I didn't expect that something would still happen. Viscount Ares is also considered an important member of the Writers Association. This matter must be investigated thoroughly to find out the cause and prevent more riders from being affected. Otherwise, it will bring unimaginable harm to the holy city. After Celeste finished explaining the profession of rider, the two of them walked out of the passage and officially arrived at the hall on the third floor of the West Building. There weren't any stairs or elevators installed here. If they came up directly from the West Building, they would need to activate some sort of secret passage or a foldable staircase to reach the creative room on this floor. A rider's creative room, indeed, needs to be absolutely quiet. Even the design of the window position and the placement of various objects are very particular. This creates a special aura suitable for writing. The entry of outsiders will disturb the aura and affect the writer's state of mind. Under normal circumstances, writers are like Aries. They have a separate creative room or a floor and are completely forbidden to outsiders. Han Dong finally understood. So that's how it is. I thought Cass' father had some unspeakable secret. The moment they stepped into this place, the two of them were attracted to something else. The door of the creative room opposite them opened slightly, and a large amount of fog could be seen with the naked eye overflowing from the inside. Eye-opening. When the little magic eye opened again, the scene he saw made Han Dong break out in a cold sweat. He couldn't help but take a step back. A large amount. Yes, a large number of white tentacles crawled between the door cracks, swaying, squirming. It was as if they were waving at Han Dong. What do you see? A large number of dense tentacles. Unimaginable. Sister Wino, I'll try to take a look. You must stay at least 3 meters away from me. Buzz. All of a sudden, a thin holy light thread formed in Celeste's hand and wrapped around Han Dong's wrist. Once there was any abnormality or danger, Celeste would use the holy light thread to drag Han Dong back. Phew! Han Dong took a deep breath and temporarily closed the little magic eye. He tried his best to block out the terrifying scene of tentacles in his mind and slowly approached the door crack. Through the white fog that was overflowing outside, Han Dong vaguely saw a figure sitting in front of a desk. In order to see more clearly, Han Dong turned sideways and slowly squeezed in through the door crack. When he passed through the door crack and officially stood inside the room, Han Dong directly saw a middle-aged man with red eyes writing in a book. As for what he was writing, Han Dong couldn't see clearly. He didn't know why. Even though Han Dong was just standing at the door of the study, his back was already soaked in cold sweat. He had the illusion that he had stepped into an endless abyss. He even felt that if he took another step forward, he would completely fall into the abyss. I have to see it more clearly. When Han Dong opened the little magic eye again, an unforgettable scene was imprinted in Han Dong's mind. There was no place to stand in the luxurious study. The ground was filled with dense white tentacles. However, the tentacles were just a small matter. Han Dong also saw an extra, uninvited guest. Beside Viscount Alex, who was riding at a fast speed, stood a guest who was not very clear. A guest who was covered in a yellow robe could only be seen by the little magic eye. Why was it not very clear? It was because in Han Dong's vision, this person did not seem to belong to the current dimension. There was a black light outline around his body that completely separated him from the study. At this moment, this guest seemed to feel the gaze of a stranger and slowly turned his body. The face under the hood was about to be exposed to Han Dong's vision. Wino. At this critical moment, Han Dong shouted with all his might. For a moment, many holy light threads wrapped around Han Dong's body and pulled him out of the study. Chapter 159. Asterisk boom. Asterisk when Han Dong was dragged out of the study. The door was also slammed shut. It seemed that due to Han Dong's prying, some kind of change was happening inside. He was trembling. That's right, Han Dong, who had experienced death once, was actually trembling uncontrollably. Different. It was obviously different from the feeling of death. In that instant just now, if he had really come face to face with that uninvited guest, Han Dong felt that he might have fallen into a level that was even scarier than death. At this moment, Han Dong's body was trembling. It was an instinctive fear and terror towards the absolute unknown. Not knowing was fear. What did you see? The whole room was filled with white tentacles. Viscount Ares was creating in a strange state. There was also a mysterious person supervising everything. Mysterious person. When Celeste heard this news, she was about to barge in and capture this suspect who was controlling Viscount Ares. Asterisk smack. Asterisk Han Dong stretched out his right arm and grabbed Celeste's arm with all his strength. Don't go. I once saw the fallen baker, without any reaction. But when I saw this person, I felt a sense of despair as if I had fallen into an endless abyss. I might die. Don't go. Han Dong's gaze was quite serious as he forcefully pulled Celeste back. What does he look like? A yellow robe covered his entire body. I can't see any features. Yellow robe? Celeste seemed to have thought of something terrifying and decisively gave up on barging into the study. She immediately helped Han Dong up and retreated with him. It was also at this moment. The fog that had originally filled the house sank into the ground and disappeared. Even a little magic, I could not see it. The house seemed to have returned to normal. The sense of contamination had completely disappeared. Asterisk crack. Asterisk the creative room. Opened again. No more white fog or tentacles appeared from the crack of the door. Instead, a trembling arm grabbed the side of the door and dragged the body out. Viscount Ares slowly crawled out. He had already woken up from his sleepwalking state and had a terrified expression on his face. There were still traces of thick oil near his eye sockets. He screamed at the top of his lungs. Save me. I beg you, please save me. Why can't I get rid of the dream even after receiving the holy light baptism? Instead, it made the person in the dream move even faster, getting closer and closer to me. If I sleep with it again, I might be killed. I don't want to become its slave. I don't want to lose my qualifications as a human. It was also at this moment. More than a dozen reinforcements from the Holy Pure Knights arrived and immediately sealed off the scene. First, he used hypnosis to stabilize Viscount Alex's body. Then, he chained him up and brought him out of the mansion. The strange thing was during the subsequent search of Maldini's mansion. The pollution that once permeated this place had completely disappeared. Later on, the members of the Knights could not detect any pollution even if they took out their sensors. It was as if the white fog and the tentacles that filled the study had disappeared along with the mysterious person. During the search of Ares' study, they did not find any records of life outside the city or any works of demonic formations. There were only a few ordinary scripts and communication documents regarding the Destiny Realm. 2. In addition, according to the information revealed by the butler about sleepwalking, there was no trace of the backyard in the backyard. There was no trace of the hole that had been dug out in the backyard. Every time a hole was dug out while sleepwalking, the servants in charge of the backyard would fill it up in time. However, there are also strange things, other than his mother, who was taken away by Cass. After tonight's incident, the 30 or so servants in the Maldini family all disappeared along with the white mist that filled the mansion. Holy Pure Knights, radiant courtyard Viscount Alex Maldini was completely exposed under the illumination of the holy light for interrogation. As an insider, Han Dong followed beside Knight Celeste the entire time after confirming that he was not infected. He was considered an assistant and a bystander of the interrogation. The second captain of the Holy Pure Knights, Covey Elliott, who majored in library, divine domain, led the interrogation. According to the clues, the interrogation focused on two aspects: dream and opera house. What did you dream of? The scene in the dream was exactly the same as my house. It was only because I have a unique understanding of dreams that I was able to recognize that it was a dream. I was sleeping on the bed in the master bedroom, unable to move my body, and on the wall facing me, there was a painting that did not belong to my house. It was an indescribable and terrifying painting. It was filled with content beyond my understanding. It was an abstract painting formed by the distortion of different words. Then, in front of the painting stood a person. It was only because it was the same height as a human that I treated it as a person. In every dream, it was standing beside the painting. Appearance? Characteristics? I couldn't see clearly. The darkness was its shelter. I could only feel that it was staring at me, a gaze that sent chills down my spine and made me restless. The dream was the same every day. The scene was the same, but this person kept getting closer. It was yesterday. It was already standing at the end of the bed. If I had another dream, I would fall into the dark abyss and lose the chance to be a human. I beg you, you must save me. Covey Elliott waved her hand, and the warm, holy light immediately calmed Aries' emotions. The second question I heard from the butler. A few days before the strange dream began to affect you, you went to the opera house once? Aries hurriedly nodded. The writer's circle often gathers together to talk about ways to find inspiration. About 2 weeks ago, someone said that the Sacred Soul Opera House on the second floor would hold the most magnificent stage performance in history. Everyone reached a consensus and went to watch this magnificent performance the next day. It was about... At this point, Aries suddenly felt that the memories that should have been stored in his head had disappeared. He only remembered that he had seen a magnificent and grand performance. He only remembered that this performance was shocking and gave him a new inspiration for his creation. However, all the information about this opera in his memory had disappeared. Which writers did you meet to enter the opera house? Covey Elliott continued asking. Baron Simon, Viscount Wadsworth, Master Lewis. Covey Elliott temporarily left the room. After a discussion with the outside personnel, she returned to the interrogation room with the relevant information. These are the information about fellow writers that you just mentioned. When Viscount Aries flipped through the documents, his entire body trembled. His eyes were filled with fear as he kept repeating, "Impossible, impossible," Covey Elliott said calmly. "The Sacred Soul Opera House you mentioned doesn't even exist in the entire Holy City, much less the second floor. In addition, the fellow writers you mentioned would have been missing for more than 10 years if they weren't the skeletal residents of the cemetery." The information handed to Aries was a backup of the death records of the local Public Security Bureau. In other words, Viscount Aries followed a group of dead people to an opera house that did not exist and watched a magnificent performance that could not be recalled. Chapter 160. Han Dong did not report the information he observed through the little magic eye. Celeste also kept it a secret. After all, the little magic eye could not hide it completely. If the information was leaked, it might expose Han Dong's secret. The interrogation ended. Aries was sent to the church area by the Holy Pure Knights to receive high-level protection. Considering the seriousness of the matter, they would search Aries' memories in an attempt to obtain crucial information. Third floor of the Holy City, Royal Tavern. Han Dong and the others gathered in a private room and told Cass about Aries' situation. It's already the best-case scenario that Father's problem was discovered and suppressed in time. Ever since Father entered the author profession, everyone in the family has been mentally prepared. I hope Father is safe and sound. In front of his friends, Cass put on a sunny smile as much as possible. Sophia sat at the side with a dejected expression as she tugged at Cass' sleeve. She had secretly gone to Cass' house no less than 5 times. This Viscount Aries was very good to her. He had joked many times about how the two of them were very compatible. Celeste said solemnly, "That's right. This incident is far beyond the scope of your understanding. The things that the author is involved in are far from what you can imagine. Even I can't handle this incident. Don't think too much about it. Viscount Aries has made great contributions to the Holy City, and the higher-ups will do their best to ensure his safety. Cass, you should stay in the Night Academy for the time being. If anything happens to your father, the higher-ups will inform you immediately. However, please be prepared for the worst." At this moment, Han Dong patted Cass' shoulder and suddenly stood up from his seat. "Cass, thank you for helping me deal with those troublesome trainee knights in the dormitory area. I'll go back to the mystery branch first. Brother Lon, leave this matter to the higher-ups. I'm already very grateful that you were able to save my father in time last night." "Okay, I understand." Han Dong waved his hand and left the tavern alone. Staring at Han Dong's back as he left alone, Celeste seemed to have realized something. Not long after, she also left the tavern. Han Dong was about to report to Mr. Black and White. It's necessary to let Mr. Black and White know about the mysterious man I saw through Little Magic Eye. Otherwise, even if it was handed over to the higher-ups to investigate, it would be difficult to find the source without key evidence and details. Mr. Black and White will definitely be able to find out the truth and ensure Viscount Alex's safety. Han Dong hailed a steam-powered carriage and prepared to return to school. As soon as he got into the car, he was stunned. This was the second time something like this had happened. Another person appeared in the car. It was Mr. Black and White, who was wearing a black robe, a hood, and a black mask. "Sir, I was just about to return to the mystery branch to report important information about this incident to you." "Tell me about the important information you saw." "All right." Han Dong recounted all the details of the incident without missing a single word. Mr. Black and White was moved when he heard that the mysterious yellow-robed man had urged Viscount Alex to sleepwalk. Yellow robe, an existence of this level, is personally taking action? I wonder if it's its true body that descended? A clone? Or a high-level believer? "Sir, what's the origin of the mysterious yellow-robed man?" Han Dong was also curious. Mr. Black and White explained simply, "This involves the basic system of life outside the city, and it's quite complicated to explain. All you need to know now is that most of the life outside the city that has been trying to invade and harass the holy city are soldiers, equivalent to ordinary knights on our side. And this yellow-robed man is equivalent to one of their leaders, an existence at the level of the Great Plague Leader. The same level as the Great Plague Leader, it's just a comparison. If it's really the yellow-robed man's true body, the Great Plague Leader definitely won't be able to deal with him alone." At this moment, Mr. Black and White suddenly reached out and stopped the coachman. The carriage stopped in front of the Maldini family's mansion. "Sir, you want to investigate this matter personally?" "Yes, with your eyes. You should be able to find the source. If this incident isn't handled properly, similar incidents will happen in the future. If the author community is damaged, the impact on the holy city will be too great. Let's go. We'll go to the mansion again." "Okay." Just as Han Dong stepped out of the carriage, a familiar female voice came from beside him. "Nicholas, I knew you would take the risk to come back. Hurry up and leave. Even if you're not afraid of corruption, this matter isn't something you can handle." Celeste seemed to be quite concerned about him. Han Dong was about to explain something when Celeste continued, "Go back and tell the Crow Prophet about the special information you saw. Their higher-ups will naturally think of a way to deal with it. You've already done enough." That," Han Dong was about to explain. The second passenger in the carriage walked down. Under the mask, a pair of crow-like eyes looked over, causing Celeste to feel a chill all over her body. Crow Prophet. Celeste habitually bowed out of knight etiquette. Unexpectedly, a dark shadow energy wrapped around her body, preventing her from bowing. An index finger was placed on the mask, and a voice echoed in Celeste's mind. "Covert operation. Do you want to come along?" Okay. To be able to act together with Mr. Black and White was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. "Sir, the Holy Knights have already sealed off the mansion. Do you want me to bring you in?" "No need. There are only 3 knights patrolling the interior. This is a covert operation. No one can know about it." As he spoke, 3 black crows flew out from his palm. Not long after, the crows drilled into the back of the patrolling knight's head. This prevented them from seeing Mr. Black and White and the others, but their other senses and movements were not affected. Moreover, as Mr. Black and White and the others entered, the 3 patrolling knights also left the mansion area at the same time. Celeste could only swallow her saliva in shock at Mr. Black and White's move. "Let's go to the backyard first." Everyone went straight to the open space where Ares had sleepwalked and dug a hole. Eye-opening, the soil had been filled up. However, Han Dong's little magic, I could see through the soil and see the special marks left behind by Ares when he was digging. The marks of the digging were pieced together to form an array pattern that Han Dong could not understand. Evil array. Han Dong immediately took out the notebook he carried with him from his backpack and copied down the array pattern he saw. He handed it to Mr. Black and White. "Can you activate this array?" I should be able to. Han Dong did not doubt Mr. Black and White's decision. He reached out and placed his hand on the center of the array. Creak! A tentacle grew out. The array was activated. For a moment, a thick fog immediately covered the Maldini family's mansion. Moreover, there was a strange sound of watering coming from the front yard. It seemed that the servants who had disappeared had returned. This is? Han Dong was puzzled. An overlapping space created by someone. The real Viscount Aries and the disappeared servants of the Maldini family are still trapped here. They're carrying out their final work. Is this the reason why all the contamination disappeared along with the servants last night? Hearing this, Han Dong connected what he had seen and heard last night, the non-existent opera house, Aries' strange state, and the array in the backyard. He suddenly thought of something. Could it be that the butler is lying? Chapter 161. Indeed, regarding Viscount Aries going to the opera house and digging in the backyard during his sleepwalking, these important information were all provided by the butler. Although Viscount Aries himself also had memories of going to the opera house. However, it could also be a forgery or a chaotic memory caused by the influence of the dream. In fact, Viscount Aries had never been to the opera house at all. Last night, at midnight, the white fog suddenly spread out in the Cass family and led everyone into the overlapping space. Someone had activated this array in the backyard. The butler who lived in the backyard was a major suspect. Mr. Black and White, overlapping space? It means that there are two different spaces in the same place. Is that what you mean? That's right. This array is both the main core that maintains the overlapping space and the switch button. Last night, someone activated the array and led you into the overlapping space. That's why you witnessed the white fog, the tentacles, and the mysterious person. When the Holy Knight's reinforcements arrived at the mansion's entrance, someone closed the array and switched back to the original space. Therefore, the white fog and tentacles completely dissipated, and you couldn't even detect the slightest bit of contamination. Han Dong still didn't quite understand. Then, what does it mean that the real Aries is trapped here? Who was the one who was escorted to the Holy Knights? The one imprisoned here is only a wisp of Aries spirit, a wisp of spirit used specifically for creation. He should be a special writer chosen by this incident. Since he started having the same dream 10 days ago, he has been induced to create a special work for someone. Every day at midnight, the array will be activated on time and lead him into the overlapping space to create a secret work. I see. After Mr. Black and White finished explaining, it was clear what to do next. Enter the main house and stop the creation. I'll leave the cleaning of the little things to you. I'll appear when necessary. You should pay attention to one thing. The servants of the Maldini family have been contaminated for more than 10 days, and their bodies have been corrupted. Also, when dealing with these white tentacles, be careful of the direct influence from the spiritual level. The goggles may fail. After saying that, Mr. Black and White transformed. He turned into an ordinary crow and landed on Han Dong's shoulder. The crow prophet is so powerful. Celeste, who was at the side, was completely speechless. Even though Mr. Black and White had not experienced the incident last night, he was able to understand the truth of the incident as a bystander by cooperating with Han Dong's narration. While exclaiming in surprise, Celeste was already prepared for battle. The armor, flail, and light shield were all equipped. Multiple buffs were applied, and he circled to the front yard of the mansion. Nicholas, it's best if you follow behind me and use your special eyes to observe. If necessary, you can deal the final blow. In the face of such a large number of fallen, you'd better avoid fighting. Celeste had just finished giving her instructions. Two powerful auras came from behind. Han Dong had no scruples in this overlapping space that isolated him from the outside world. Coupled with the fact that he was pressed for time, Han Dong directly unleashed his full strength. Two anomalies appeared at the same time. The moment Chun-Li appeared, she used the white fog to move stealthily in the dark. Celeste had already seen the possessed one, Chun-Li, in the previous Beck incident, so she was not surprised. However, she had never seen this bald man with a saw blade on his head, a chain in his hand, and pure black eyes. Togu Gonzalez. And because of this man's appearance, ash particles floated in the air, and the temperature also rose. The power coming from this man's body was not weak at all. Demon? Where did you get so many summoned creatures? Celeste had come into contact with many knights who majored in control. She knew some rules about summoning. Even for official knights, very few could control two summoned creatures that matched their level at the same time. Moreover, these humanoid summoned creatures were more difficult to control than simple-minded magical beasts. Let's talk about it later. Let's deal with the gardener in the front yard first. Okay. Her gaze shifted to the garden area. Under the shroud of the fog, the plants in the front yard became strange. Vines, branches, and flowers swayed strangely in the air. As for the gardener in charge of the garden, he had completely degenerated and corrupted. Unlike the former fallen Beck, Beck could barely maintain his human form due to the support of the Book, and his consciousness was relatively intact. But the gardener here had lost the posture of a human, and his consciousness had long withered and corrupted. 1. Large patches of skin peeled off, and white tentacles grew out. 2. Their arms turned into a flesh-shaped funnel, watering the plants with their own body fluids. 3. Their lower body turned into a giant suction cup, making it convenient for them to quickly absorb water from the fountain and replenish their body's nutrients. A total of 5. I'll take care of 3 here. You delay the remaining 2 for a while. Okay. After all, he was one of the best in the night group. Celeste was fearless and immediately rushed forward. The steel flail in her hand was immediately covered with a layer of holy flame that restrained the contaminated bodies. The flail swept horizontally. The first gardener, who did not have time to react, was directly smashed by the powerful flail attack. The contaminated body parts scattered on the ground were eroded by the holy flame and were quickly annihilated, not giving the gardener any chance to revive. 1. Avenger's shield. The holy shield flew out. It hit and ricocheted between the other 2 gardeners, causing damage and stun at the same time. 2. Celeste immediately closed in and swung her flail, destroying the second stunned gardener. Stun resistance. Just as Celeste turned around, the third gardener actually resisted the stun and aimed his funnel arm at her. A highly polluting body fluid sprayed out. Celeste, who had experienced many battles, quickly raised the holy shield. Sizzle. White smoke rose from the holy shield. If it came into contact with this contaminated liquid for a long time, it might damage the holy artifact. Celeste gritted her teeth and decisively activated the flail's active skill. A normal-sized holy hammer appeared out of thin air above the gardener's head. Pa! It fell vertically and completely crushed the third gardener. 3 done. Deep corruption. Nicholas shouldn't be easy to deal with, right? Celeste took a deep breath and went around the strange garden area as fast as she could to support Han Dong. However, the scene she saw when she walked out of the garden, it did not match with what she expected. Han Dong trying his best to delay the 2 fallen. Han Dong, with the black crow perched on his shoulder, did not make a move at all. He even sat leisurely at the edge of the fountain. The battle had just ended. Togu's direct confrontation and Chun Li's assassination had completely eliminated the 2 gardeners. The gardener's body was completely burned by Togu's lava ability. It was clean and neat. This scene made Celeste speechless. In just over a week, Han Dong, who had escaped from the Fate Realm, had already improved substantially compared to the last time he was in the underground area. Han Dong recalled the 2 servants and stood up to point in the direction of the mansion. Sister Winograd, let's go. Chapter 162. Characteristics. Anomalies that had been modified by the prison were the same as Han Dong. They were not afraid of pollution. When dealing with these fallen, there was no need to worry about pollution at all. Therefore, Togu's copper skin and iron bones were nothing to deal with these gardeners. His lava ability could also burn the body and prevent regeneration. The only pity was that Togu could not gain growth experience by defeating these low-level fallen. If Togu wanted to grow in battle, he had to defeat individuals stronger than him. While walking toward the mansion, Celeste was still surprised by Han Dong's progress in such a short period of time. Including these two servants, Nicholas's own strength can already reach the lowest level of a knight. No wonder Mr. Black and White values him so much. Moreover, the fact that he is not afraid of pollution is crucial. In the future, he might become the #1 investigator in the Order of Knights, greatly reducing casualties when exploring outside. It's a pity that there's no way to poach him into the Order of Holy Knights. With his characteristics, it's safest for him to follow Mr. Black and White and stay in the Order of Plague. After a while, Han Dong was already standing in front of the East Building. He planned to continue using the hidden secret passage in a master bedroom to go to the creation room. Creak, however, when he pushed open the door, Han Dong was stunned. The scene that greeted his eyes was not the Maldini's mansion at all. It was the corridor of mist. The door faced a deep corridor, and the end seemed to correspond to a complicated fork. There were 2 doors every 3 meters in the corridor, and it was impossible to determine which room Alex was in to carry out the final creation. This is a maze? At this time, the crow on his shoulders spoke. It can create overlapping spaces, and it can also carry out internal modifications according to the creator's will. When the gardener was killed by you, the guy behind the scenes already knew that you were coming. He temporarily transformed the mansion into a complicated and huge maze area in order to stall for time and complete the final creation. A wisp of Viscount Ares' spiritual body should be locked up in a certain room. Find it as soon as possible. Okay, eye-opening. The little magic eye, which was almost a cheat, was activated. For a moment, a liquid-like mist came into view. Han Dong could see the flow of the fog clearly. Even though there was a small amount of fog leaking out from under each door, the source was still deep in the corridor. If he followed the mainstream, he should be able to reach the source of the fog. Alex's spiritual body should be there. However, the fog that flowed between the passages would occasionally construct a white tentacle and make intimate contact with the individual. Even Celeste, who was wearing goggles, equipped with holy light armor and buffed with multiple buffs, could not withstand the attack. When they were entangled by the white tentacles, they would immediately freeze. Just as Mr. Black and White had reminded him, the goggles were useless. His mind and thoughts were directly affected. For a moment, some kind of light-colored pattern formed around Celeste's eyes. Her own consciousness, on the other hand, was drawn to a grand theater with gorgeous decorations, where she was forced to watch a bizarre stage play. His body was fixed to the chair. His eyes were forced open by the device. Celeste could not shift her gaze away at all. She could only watch the monstrous stage play from beginning to end. Some kind of corruption was directly generated in her brain. Sister Wino. At the critical moment, the tentacle was cut off by a claw. Han Dong's shout pulled her out of the terrifying illusion. Contact intracranial corruption. This is a high-level corruption that I can't resist. When she woke up, Celeste hurriedly drank a cup of holy water and tried her best to forget the scenes related to the horror play in her memory. If she wanted to resist this kind of intracranial corruption, she had to establish a sound defensive measure in her brain. And Celeste was unable to perfect this step at the moment. This was the flaw in her ability. Are you not affected? Celeste asked in surprise. Yes, I should be fine. As Han Dong spoke, he reached out and grabbed a white tentacle that grew under his feet. He was not affected at all and even pulled it out by the roots. Although she knew about Han Dong's characteristics, this scene still left Celeste dumbfounded. No one would not want to have such a bug-like ability. The most fatal problem when fighting against creatures outside the city was the problem of corruption. Han Dong asked with concern, Sister Wino, you can't resist this kind of corruption? Who said I can't resist it? I'm not very good at intracranial defense. Then how about this? At this moment, Han Dong reached out his right hand. He gestured for her to hold hands. This way, they could completely avoid the possibility of the two of them getting separated. Moreover, if Celeste suffered from intracranial corruption again, Han Dong would be able to detect it immediately. Celeste stared at the skinny young man who was about the same height as her. She bit her lower lip and slowly reached out her hand. This was different from the last time at the trading center. This passive way of holding hands made Celeste very uncomfortable, and a faint blush appeared on her cheeks. How did you not get affected by the corruption? When I was carrying out the ghoul mission with Cass, I realized that I was not affected by the corruption. I'm not sure what the exact reason is. This time, I'll have to thank you. Yes, leave the matter of resisting the corruption to me. If we run into any trouble while passing through the maze, I'll need you to solve it, Sister Wino. Han Dong deliberately said this to balance the roles between the two of them. Of course, under the effect of the little magic eye, Han Dong went against the flow of the fog and quickly passed through the maze area. During this time, Celeste suffered from mental corruption many times, but she was pulled back to reality by Han Dong in time. Once was fine, but after it happened so many times, Celeste slowly developed a strange sense of dependence. In her eyes, Han Dong was no longer a trainee knight. Along the way, they would occasionally encounter fallen servants that suddenly appeared from the side door. The holy flame flail struck continuously and quickly killed the target. Just like this, the two of them reached the last passage of the maze at their fastest speed. There was no longer a fork in the road at the end, but an open door. The source of the fog was inside this door. Viscount Aries should be inside. They stepped through the door. Once again, they came to the familiar creation room. Mr. Black and White was right. A wisp of Viscount Aries' spirit was trapped here and was working on his novel day and night. The remaining servants of the Maldini family were all gathered here. They surrounded the room in 3 layers to ensure that Viscount Aries' final creation would not be affected. I'm done. I'm finally done. It was like the joy of climbing out of the abyss. Aries revealed a relieved expression and lay on the table, unable to move. A unique novel was completed. At the same time, the white tentacles on the ground wriggled and gathered. A mysterious yellow-robed person that could be seen with the naked eye was formed. The situation was slightly different from last night. He had specially come to check on his work. Caw, crow's caw. Mr. Black and White revealed his true form. Chapter 163. Crow feathers fell. First, a black mask floated in the air. Black feathers gathered. The crow prophet, shrouded in a black robe, appeared. Crow domain. A halo similar to black water ripples formed under his feet and covered the entire creative studio. Caw, caw, caw. Hundreds of crows formed in the domain. Even Han Dong could feel a sense of danger. Every crow was deadly. When the fallen servants gathered in the creative studio, sensed the intruders, they lost their human form. They pounced over crazily. Mr. Black and White waved his hand. The crows quickly and accurately drilled into their mouths. Strange objects swam in their bodies and destroyed their cores almost instantly. They immediately disintegrated and turned into a pool of sewage. At the same time, a crow quietly flew to the desk and sucked Alex Maldini's spirit body into its body. If this wisp of spirit body was destroyed, Alex would lose his ability to create, and the Holy City would lose an important author. However, his important creation had been completed. Alex was no longer of any use to the mysterious yellow-robed man. Therefore, the mysterious man didn't stop the crow from taking him away. It's been hard on you to clean up the fallen along the way, Knight Celeste. Leave for now and forget what happened here. Mr. Black and White waved his hand again. Celeste immediately left the study and was forcefully taken out of the mansion by a crow. This way, only Mr. Black and White, Han Dong, and the mysterious yellow-robed man were left in the creative studio. In the yellow-robed man's hand was a finished product created by Alex. On the cover were the English words, Legend of the Dragon. Based on the cover and title, it was just an ordinary fantasy novel. There was nothing special or dangerous about it. Mr. Black and White started the topic. I wonder what is the purpose of an existence of your level, sneaking into the Holy City. According to the Knight's investigation and my personal understanding, you don't seem to have done anything to the group of authors. You're only targeting Viscount Alex. Although Alex is a core member of the Writers Association, he has no real power. You can only get some superficial information about the Holy City from him. It's useless, and the finished product in your hand doesn't seem to be anything special. What is your objective? Mr. Black and White asked. The yellow robe slowly rotated. However, the yellow robe man he saw this time was different from the one Han Dong saw last night. He could see it clearly with his naked eye, and the pressure he released was not strong. It did not make Han Dong feel like he had fallen into the abyss at all. Under the hood was the old butler of the Maldini family. However, some white tentacles appeared in his eyes. The mysterious yellow-robed man had controlled the steward through the method of possession, secretly plotting all of this. Using the butler's body, the yellowed teeth slowly opened. As the foreign body squirmed in his mouth, he spoke fluent English. I don't mean any harm. I'm not interested in invading your city at all. In fact, I'm against it. After all, you humans are really interesting, especially your cultural heritage. I'm just bored outside. When I was traveling around the world, I came across a few large flying dragons that you humans brought out from the strange space. Their forms, cries, and the scales on their bodies made me very interested. After killing them, a fantasy novel idea about the age of the dragons emerged in my mind. Therefore, I intend to find a writer who is good at fantasy to help me write a novel of good quality according to the system framework I conceived. After all, life outside the city is really boring. It's good to read novels to pass the time. I'm different from those guys. I'm very interested in the various cultural products of you humans, especially this kind of novel that's very imaginative. It's very interesting. This Legend of the Dragon was completed under my supervision. If you're interested, I can make 2 copies for you on the spot. See if the world view of the dragons I've constructed is very interesting. Such an explanation made Han Dong dumbfounded. There was neither a major plan to invade the Holy City, nor an evil idea to corrupt humans. The main purpose of this mysterious yellow-robed man was to catch an author and help him write a novel. Under its guidance and coercion, Viscount Ares was able to complete a long fantasy novel in a short period of 10 days. This method almost squeezed out all of Viscount Ares' brain power. Listening to the mysterious yellow-robed man's explanation, Mr. Black and White had a thoughtful expression. Can you give me a copy? Okay. A large number of tentacles grew out from under the yellow robe. Like a printer, a copy of the novel was immediately produced. Mr. Black and White, as a reviewer, quickly read the novel on the spot and gave a simple review. It's a pretty good novel. It should be able to reach the level of a bestseller in the Holy City. However, there are still flaws in the racial division of the dragons. I hope to highlight the characteristics of each race. When the possessed butler heard this, he looked excited. Really? That's great. Mr. Black and White took the opportunity to make a rather important suggestion. If you still want to write in the future, I can find a more professional writer to work with you. This way, you won't have to take the risk of sneaking into the Holy City. We can also feel more at ease. The yellow-robed man quickly nodded. Okay, but it doesn't seem easy to see you, right? If it's not convenient for you to see me, you can ask my student to help you pass the message. Mr. Black and White said this and patted Han Dong's shoulder. It seemed that he had already planned to change the topic to Han Dong. Oh, it's this young man who can see my true form. Several white tentacles flashed through the butler's eyes, and he looked very interested. Regardless of whether Mr. Black and White would attack him or not, he walked straight towards the young man, Han Dong. Han Dong lowered his head the whole time. As he listened to the approaching footsteps, his whole body was covered in sweat. He couldn't interrupt this kind of high-dimensional conversation at all when he was half a meter away. The butler widened his eyes and observed Han Dong from a close distance. The eye of the dead. A human can actually learn such a skill, and your brain seems to have a long history. There's a fishy smell that I don't like, and at the same time, there are all kinds of strange smells. Interesting. I like unconventional people like you. A crow with a brain? Okay, If I have any works that I want to create in the future, I'll contact you directly. Please be sure to provide me with an excellent writer who can meet my requirements. Otherwise, I'll have to choose a suitable writer myself. Mr. Black and White's mask cracked into a smile. No problem. Then what benefits can we get? Were they? A tentacle grew out of the possessed butler's fingertip and scratched his nose. After thinking for a while, he answered, "This young man hasn't left the holy city, right? If you encounter any danger outside the city in the future, you can ask me to solve it. It's only limited to small situations. If you get into trouble with something big, I won't help you. I don't like to get into trouble." Mr. Black and White continued to ask, "How can you be sure that you'll help him and not assimilate him? Believe it or not, I don't care. If I can't find a writer through your channel, I can use a similar method to sneak into the holy city. Please allow me to think for 3 minutes." "Go ahead." The butler smiled and waited quietly. While Mr. Black and White was thinking, he changed his mask. Wearing the white mask, he analyzed the important deal with a different way of thinking. 3 minutes later, he made a decision on time. "Okay." The possessed butler turned to Han Dong. "Young man, stretch out your hand." He opened his mouth wide, and a tentacle grew out of the butler's body and touched the back of Han Dong's left hand. There was a strange feeling of his soul being touched. A yellow seal was slowly outlined. "Young man, we will be connected through this seal. Happy cooperation." Chapter 164. The Maldini family incident came to an end for the time being. No one knew that Mr. Black and White, Han Dong, and Celeste had secretly entered Maldini's mansion. After the crow brought Viscount Alex Maldini's spirit body back to his main body, he gradually recovered from his weakness and fear. He no longer continued with the terrifying dream. After a few days of recuperation and nutrition, his tired brain gradually returned to normal. He only needed to rest for a month before he could completely return to normal and continue writing related works. Due to the lack of key evidence and the lack of clues in his memory, this incident became an unsolved case. Subsequently, the Parliament strengthened the protection of the author group. As this incident did not cause any substantial harm to the Holy City, it slowly disappeared with the passage of time, and no one paid attention to it. Stargazing room, in front of the fireplace. Mr. Black and White held Han Dong's left arm and carefully observed the back of his hand. Even I can't see any clues without actively activating the yellow seal. Very good. As expected of a high-level existence. Sir, to be honest, Han Dong felt that such a transaction was extremely risky. More importantly, most of the risk was placed on Han Dong. The faceless head was already troublesome enough, and now there was the mysterious yellow seal. Han Dong already had a premonition. If this continued, Han Dong suspected that one day Mr. Black and White would send him out of the city and deep into the enemy's rear as a traitor. Risk. The risk of your head is much higher than this seal. As long as you don't activate the seal, no one in the Holy City will discover it. I think that since you have a certain connection with the creatures outside the city, try to deepen this relationship. You have an additional channel for development compared to us. Apart from the destiny space, you can also grow from the creatures outside the city. Yellow Cloak, it was a very special high-level existence as well. According to our current understanding, it is different from the evil and arrogant creatures outside the city. It is a maverick and almost neutral existence. Once such a relationship is established, it will be very beneficial to you overall. I believe in Sir's decision. Han Dong nodded. Of course, the ultimate benefit of this relationship still depends on you. I hope that you can use this mark to slowly build a good relationship with Yellow Clothes. This will be of great significance to you and to our sacred city. Yes. Sir, I have a question. Could it be that you've already calculated this step before you sent me to Maldini's house? A smile cracked under the black mask. It was White who performed a short-term divination on you alone. I only calculated that this banquet would have an important impact on your life, but I didn't expect that this matter would involve a mastermind, Yellow Clothes. 3 months later, the night collective training would be held in a new training area outside the city. When the time comes, you can try to use this yellow seal if the conditions permit and see what effect it will have. It's up to you to weigh the pros and cons. As for yellow shirt's need for a writer, I'll take care of it myself. Okay, thank you, Mr. Black and White. Yes, practice your basic skills well and hide your special eye well. 3 months later, get the list of candidates for the night collective training. In the following period of time, Han Dong made a detailed learning schedule for himself. 1. In the early stage, he would carry out comprehensive training in the study of pestilence and reach the 4-star standard. After that, if there was a chance, he could ask the great master of pestilence about natural disasters and auxiliary knowledge. Han Dong was very interested in dual cultivation. 2. Spend 2 hours a day practicing little magic to increase proficiency and completely restrain the polluted aura emitted by the eyeball. 3. Learn and perfect the content of the first chapter of the Book of the Dead, a manuscript, and improve the ability of the possessed Chun-Li by attracting the evil aura. He would strive to make Chun-Li's overall strength equal to Toga's. Han Dong also planned to find a furnace with a high enough temperature through Koslin to improve Togu and restore his strength to the level in the movie as soon as possible. 4. Through morning runs, night runs, and some of the Crusade's body training foundation that he got from Cass, strengthen his body and familiarize himself with the G1 form. According to this learning schedule, Han Dong's daily sleeping time was limited to 6 hours. It was common for him to study at night under the light. About a month ago at night, in the dormitory, Han Dong had just finished reading the book and was about to go to sleep. A numbing feeling came from the back of his left hand. Han Dong was shocked and immediately went to the bathroom. The long-awaited yellow seal appeared for the first time. For a moment, a large amount of white mist overflowed from the cracks in the bathroom walls, the sewer pipes, and the water outlet. Han Dong saw a blurry figure in a yellow robe condensing behind him through the square mirror on the sink. As the tentacles slowly grew from the inside of the yellow robe, one by one, distorted words were written on the glass. The little magic I had to be activated in order to understand these strange words. After leaving the message, the yellow robe disappeared with the mist. The yellow seal faded, and the bathroom returned to normal. The message left behind made Han Dong feel helpless. The content was as follows: Frowny Face, the legend of the Dragon Clan, has met my expectations. The content is simply too captivating. I have already thought of the follow-up story in a larger world framework. Please prepare a writer who is good at fantasy for me. I will need about 30 days. Dear reader, the above text is a high-level secret text. Remember to wash your eyes after reading this chapter. Han Dong did not know how to comment on the strange behavior of borrowing a writer to write a book. After that, he immediately reported to Mr. Black and White, and the matter was quickly resolved. The writer who accepted the task also received a personal gift from Mr. Black and White. It was considered a legitimate transaction with a yellow coat. No one was affected during the whole process, and the sacred city's public security was normal. Moreover, when a manuscript of The Legend of the Dragon 2 was handed in, the mysterious yellow coat was very mysterious. This mysterious man in yellow was actually very polite. He left the word "thank you" on the mirror. Han Dong was even more curious about the character of the yellow robe, who was powerful enough to bring destruction to the holy city. The 3-month study was coming to an end. Han Dong had basically achieved the 4 requirements he set for himself. 3 days before the start of the preliminaries of the night training, Han Dong asked Mr. Black and White to meet the Great Plague Leader. Just in time, the 3-month deadline is approaching. Let me see what you've learned in the past 3 months. If you can meet the standards, I'll let you meet the Great Plague Leader in private. Chapter 165. Stargazing Room. Stars twinkled. The fungal community that was spreading wantonly, the giant claw marks on the ground, and other damages caused by Han Dong were restored to their original state as the stars twinkled. The test was completed. Mr. Black and White handed a handwritten letter to Han Dong. Take this letter and go see the Great Plague Master. If he has time, he should be able to give you a few words of advice. Coincidentally, he is now in the Deadwater Swamp. Is there anything I need to pay attention to? Asking a few simple questions is fine. However, it is best to wait until he and the witch are done with what they are supposed to do. Understood. The Deadwater Swamp was one of the dangerous areas in the Mystery Branch. It was located behind the Dark Moon Tower. The edge of the swamp was also the border of the Night Academy. Twisted, large, and strange trees with terrifying human faces were one of the symbols of the swamp area. A large number of carnivorous plants lurked in the swamp water that was 1/3 the height of the trees. Once they felt a slight vibration on the surface of the water, the plants would open their bloody mouths or extend their branches that had the ability to pierce and suck, quickly hunting for food. Pieces of rotten and moldy wooden planks were suspended in the air by the vines of the strange trees. They were the only path in the swamp area. The Deadwater Swamp occupied an area similar to the Dark Moon Forest. It was also the main place of education for the Mystery Branch. Similar to how Han Dong studied plague in the old sewers, many apprentice knights who studied witchcraft lived in the swamp for a long time. Witchcraft was only available to female mystery apprentices. When Han Dong walked between the wooden planks, he could see many tree houses with different styles built at the ends of the branches. The requirements for witch apprentices were relatively high, and these tree houses were their main dormitories. Witch Kalungia Mason had ordered Kieran to spend more than 80% of his time in the Night Academy in the past few years in the swamp. In order not to attract attention, Han Dong walked between the wooden planks in a bird's beak costume. At this time, most of the witch apprentices were in their tree houses reading books related to alchemy and herbology. Some were brewing witch soup. Some were making voodoo dolls that could curse others or help themselves withstand damage. Or they were practicing drawing different kinds of tactics. Every once in a while, a group of witch apprentices would be summoned to the Witches' Academy at the center of the swamp. Excepting Witch Chironia Mason, S-test was equivalent to an irregular work report. Once the report was not up to standard, they would face extremely severe punishment. Therefore, the witch apprentices rarely left the treehouse and spent most of their time training. However, Han Dong, who was wearing a bird's beak, still attracted the attention of many apprentices. Many pairs of eyes with dark circles were looking at the mysterious apprentice who did not belong to Deadwater Swamp through the glass window. There were many discussions about Han Dong's arrival. After walking in the swamp area for about half an hour, creak, the sound of a door opening came from the twisted tree not far from Han Dong. A woman with slightly twisted limbs crawled out from the door of the treehouse at the top. Using a crawling method similar to that of spiders, they easily crawled and jumped among the twisted trees as if they were already familiar with life in the swamp area. As she was crawling down the tree, her black hair hung down and covered her face. Combined with her spider-crawling posture, it was a little creepy in the gloomy swamp that was shrouded in a dark moon. When she was 3 meters away from the wooden plank, the woman lightly leaped down. She lightly stepped on the wooden plank with her bare feet. Through the cushioning process between her toes and the soles of her feet, she did not put any pressure on the decaying plank. She stood face to face with Han Dong. The woman wore a loose and ordinary white linen coat that was tightened at the waist. She also wore a pair of leggings below to prevent her secret from being exposed while she was crawling. There were a few strange bracelets on her wrist. There were herbs, ebony, octopus specimens, bat wings. There were also some exquisite magical tattoos on her palms and the joints of her arms that could effectively assist in the casting of spells. Half of her face was covered by a wooden mask, while the other half revealed her beautiful and deep black eyes. She also had slightly thick lips, an oval face, and short black hair. Student Nicholas, is that you? What are you doing in Deadwater Swamp? This little Turkish girl actually recognized Han Dong's identity. After all, the beak costume given by Mr. Black and White could conceal one's aura and identity. Student Mia. That was right. This was the outstanding student who had entered the mysterious academy in the same batch as Han Dong, Mia Semenovich. While everyone had gathered in the hall after passing the dangerous test, Mia had made a large amount of medicinal herbs and distributed them to the injured students. Moreover, Han Dong had also seen her in the corner of the first floor when he went to the Adventurers Guild for the first time. It's really you. I knew it. When you were taken away at the last minute, it wasn't because of a problem with the test. It was because Mr. Black and White wanted to see you. This portable beak costume with the goggles function was also given to you by Mr. Black and White, right? Yes, Mr. Black and White is my second teacher. Wow, I'm so jealous. Mia clasped her hands together and crossed them in front of her chest. Her bright black eyes examined Han Dong seriously. Han Dong, didn't know how to respond other than laughing awkwardly. Student Nicholas, what are you doing in Deadwater Swamp? Generally, non-witch apprentices are forbidden to enter this place. If you don't have a special permit and are discovered by Teacher Chironia, you'll end up in a miserable state. Han Dong didn't reply. He just showed the letter in his pocket. The crow wax seal on it was extra conspicuous. Mia was slightly excited when she saw the letter. She took the initiative to lead the way. So you were recommended by Mr. Black and White. Then there's no problem. I'll take you there. I heard that Teacher Chironia is meeting a very important guest today. All the work reports of us, which apprentices, have been canceled. I don't know if she has time to meet you. It's okay. I can find the way. I can go there alone. Okay. Han Dong directly bypassed Mia and continued to go deeper into the swamp. Even if the little magic eye was closed, it could still help Han Dong find the direction. He went straight into the swamp. He didn't need anyone to lead the way. Just as he approached the center of the swamp, Han Dong suddenly stopped. A cold voice came from under the beak mask. How long are you going to follow me? With the shaking of the branches behind him, Mia, who was hiding among the branches, jumped onto the wooden board again. She stuck out her tongue awkwardly. I just want to see why you're looking for Teacher Chironia. Also, you can't go any further through the wooden board. It's your first time in Deadwater Swamp. You probably don't know how to get to witch school. I can take you to Teacher Chironia's residence. Okay, thank you. Chapter 166. Indeed, it was as Mia said. As they approached the central area of the stagnant swamp, the strange trees were no longer dense, and the wooden planks used for walking also came to an end here. A large swamp lake occupied the central area. There was still a large number of carnivorous plants hidden under the lake, so it was impossible to swim forward. In the center of the swamp lake stood a dark Gothic-style building. It was the witch school, the place where the witch apprentices reported their work. In addition to reporting their work, every week there would be a public lecture in the school, and all the apprentices had to attend. Under the guidance of Mia, they detoured to a place similar to the swamp dock. A small wooden boat full of frogs that was soaked in water and covered in moss was docked here. Not to mention 2 people sitting on it. Han Dong even felt that if he pushed the wooden boat out alone, it would not take long before it sank. Can this boat sit on it? Just give me a tip. Mia took out 2 copper coins from her pocket and gently placed them on the bow of the boat. Moist water plants and vines overflowed from the water surface. They stuck close to the hull and slowly built a medium-sized swamp fisherman on the boat. The appearance of the swamp fisherman also blocked the hole in the hull. Let's get on the boat. Under the illumination of the dark moon, accompanied by the swamp fisherman and the witch apprentices, traveling on a boat in a quiet and uninhabited swamp lake, it was really a unique experience. The lake was huge, and with the current speed of the boat, it would take at least 20 minutes to reach the witch school. Do you want to eat? Mia took out a bag of snacks from her waist, which was filled with exotic dried octopus, bat jerky, snake meat, and dried jellyfish skin. No need. When Han Dong smelled this strange smell, there was a slight squirming reaction in his intestines. I usually don't share such high-grade food with others. Then I'll eat it myself. Mia ate with relish, licking her fingers from time to time. Right. You should be participating in the night training preliminaries in 3 days, right? Mia, who still had a curly octopus tentacle hanging from the corner of her mouth, suddenly raised her head and asked, Yes, great. I've also signed up. When the time comes, let's go together. Our batch of freshmen should only have the two of us participating. We could take care of each other. We'll see. As the wooden boat approached the center, Han Dong realized that the dark Gothic style, which school, was built on a small island with shallow water. Come with me. Sensei Kaironia should be receiving guests in the reception hall or office. Under Mia's lead, they entered the strange-looking school area. However, after a round of searching, there was no one in the school area. Strange? Where is he? Where does Witch Kaluna live? Han Dong asked. The top floor of the Witch Academy is the teacher's private residence. However, the teacher usually doesn't bring guests up there, unless the teacher wasn't receiving an ordinary guest. Could it be that we're meeting the Great Plague Leader today? The relationship between the Great Plague Leader and the witch was very clear to this group of witch apprentices who lived in the swamp. At the thought of this, Mia actually became a little excited. Yes, bring me up. I'll wait at the door. Okay, they went up the spiral staircase. The closer they got to the top floor, the more they could smell the stench of soaked fish eyes. When they arrived in front of the witch's home, they were surprised to see that the door with the skull hanging on it was slightly ajar. The wrinkled human head hanging on the door suddenly let out a hoarse voice. Mia, what are you doing here? Who is this person? Teacher, he's Mr. Black and White's follower. He's here to look for you with a letter. Looking for me? I'm very busy today. It's not convenient for me to see anyone. Han Dong immediately replied. Hello, Sensei Kaironia. I'm here to look for the Great Plague Leader. You guys go ahead. I'll wait outside. The wrinkled human head hanging on the door didn't respond to Han Dong's reply for the time being. After a while, the wooden door slowly opened, indicating for the two to enter the house. Let's go. Teacher allowed us to enter. Mia led Han Dong into the witch's home. A giant animal's fur was used as a carpet. All kinds of insect, fish, and amphibian specimens were hung on the wall. In addition, there were all kinds of glass bottles soaked in samples, more like soaked wine or pickles, all kinds of animal eyeballs, whips, wings, and some strange aquatic eggs on the display table in the hall. At this moment, the Great Plague Leader, Mograine, walked out of the inner bedroom while fastening his belt. Then, first, a wisp of liquid-like black gas flowed out of the room. The witch, Kaironia Mason, who was in charge of teaching witches in Deadwater Swamp, slowly walked out. This deputy director of the mystery branch, who was second only to Mr. Black and White, was completely different from the hunched old, which with a huge hooked nose that Han Dong had imagined in his mind. She wore a long dress made of many layers of black gauze. She had a charming and perfect figure without losing her curves. She wore thick purple-black eyeshadow. She wore 2 skull earrings inlaid with gems. She wore lip, tongue, and nose studs. Beautiful, enchanting, mysterious, and strange. This was the ruler of Deadwater Swamp. So, it's you. The Great Plague Leader immediately recognized this disciple of Mr. Black and White. Last time, it was Han Dong who helped decipher the treasure map of Dragonbone Waste. The Knights of Pestilence had obtained an important treasure that improved the overall strength of the team. The Great Plague Leader's prejudice against Han Dong's psionic ability was also reduced by half because of this. As soon as they met, Han Dong immediately handed the letter of recommendation to him. Unexpectedly, the Great Plague Leader did not even look at it. He casually sat on the leather sofa next to the fireplace. There's no need for this letter of recommendation. Speak. Why are you looking for me? If it's related to the plague, I can teach you some practical skills. Since you're a disciple of Mr. Black and White, you could be considered half a student of mine. Just as Han Dong smiled and was about to ask a question, the Great Plague Leader waved her hand. The witch waved her hand, and 4 strange cups of purple tea were placed on the table. She gestured for everyone to sit down and have a chat. Thank you, Teacher Kailonia. Han Dong purposely found a seat facing the Great Plague Leader and sat down. Who knew? The Great Plague Leader sat on his legs and leaned against his sturdy chest. She did not care about the gazes of the juniors. This intimate behavior made Mia blush. She raised her teacup and tried her best to avoid eye contact. Ask away. Yes. I'm here to ask about the plague transformation and the other fate class. Han Dong's question immediately attracted the Great Plague leader's attention. Mia, who was holding her teacup, stared blankly at this student. Chapter 167. There were many knights who followed the example of the Great Plague and took up a secondary fate profession, but there were very few who could achieve anything. According to statistics, knights who majored in a single fate profession were more likely to reach the door. Even if the Great Plague looked like this and combined with the Calamity talent tree, it would still be harder for him to reach a higher level than a knight who specialized in a single class. Therefore, the Parliament had issued a clear order. When an individual wanted to allocate fate points to a secondary profession, they had to report it in advance. They were only allowed to take the risk if they had a guarantor. Therefore, when it came to the minor profession, the witch was also very surprised. After all, Han Dong was Mr. Black and White's disciple. She did not expect Mr. Black and White to allow Han Dong to make such a risky choice. Witch Chironia Mason had actually reached the level of a dean 5 years ago. She had the strength to become a mystical sorcerer. But because of Mr. Black and White's existence, she could not sit in that position no matter what. Mr. Black and White naturally knew that Han Dong wanted a minor profession, so he wrote this letter of recommendation. The witch was confused and thought to herself, "Is that crow betting again?" Just when the witch was trying to use a special eye technique to spy on Han Dong's uniqueness, the Great Plague Elder, Mograine, put a hand on her shoulder and stopped her in time. The Great Plague Elder's other hand moved back and forth on his thick beard. "My calamity is fundamentally different from your plague, so it's not suitable for me to give you pointers. However, I can tell you some empirical things about your minor specialties. What minor do you plan to take up?" Han Dong answered without hesitation. "Library." Han Dong was immediately attracted to library when he first chose his fate. The nature of this profession corresponded to magic. It was only because the faceless head's attribute matched mysticism that Han Dong chose mysticism. He wanted to familiarize himself with the head's ability and disguise it, thus establishing a firm foothold in the Holy City. After learning that the Great Plague Master's major was the Crusader army and his minor was the Plague Master, Han Dong's desire to pursue a minor was growing stronger and stronger. From Han Dong's point of view, the magic system involved in the library was directly related to the technology of this world. He, who had been engaged in scientific research before his death, was eager to understand the magical elements in this world. The Great Plague Chief nodded. He didn't explain the basics, such as the balance of the supporting classes, the problem of stamina, and the problem of investing destiny points. The Great Plague Chieftain merely raised a finger. Don't be influenced by any external factors or have any ulterior motives. Let nature take its course. Just one fate class isn't enough to satisfy your needs. That's why you've chosen to take up a second supporting class. Back then, I only wanted to use some special methods to further temper my body. After learning that the old sewers of the Mystery Branch was a good place to temper one's body, I found a chance to sneak in and make my first contact with the Great Plague Master. The feeling of immersing myself in the plague pool for the first time was unforgettable. I've never thought of minoring in mysticism. I've just gone with the flow and did it. Fate is the same. Do you understand what I'm saying? Han Dong's eyes flashed when he heard the Great Plague Chieftain's words. This was the answer Han Dong wanted. Han Dong knew the basics, and the Great Plague Chieftain's words were very important to Han Dong. "Thank you for your advice, Great Plague Chieftain. I understand. I will seriously consider the matter of the minor." Not bad. The fact that Han Dong could understand the Great Plague Chieftain's words meant that the Great Plague Chieftain approved of him. "I won't disturb you any further." Since he had gotten the answer he wanted, Han Dong prepared to leave. He had to take a good rest in the last 3 days and prepare for the upcoming preliminaries of the night training. When the time came, a large number of elites from the National Royal Knight Academy would participate. Han Dong had to give it his all since he could not use the faceless skull's abilities. Unexpectedly, just as Han Dong got up, the witch called out to him, "Kid, don't be in such a hurry to leave. Since you're already here, why don't you stay for the night?" Han Dong replied awkwardly, "Teacher Kylona, I have something to do in the stargazing room." Wait a moment. The witch's eyes revealed that she was very interested in Han Dong. She immediately contacted Mr. Black and White through the clockwork device. "Crow, can I borrow your student for a day? Don't break him. Enough is enough. Okay, I'll teach him well." Hearing this conversation, Han Dong felt very uneasy. The witch revealed an evil smile and pointed at a guest room. "Mia is a student that I have high hopes for. Since you're already here, you and Mia can both stay. There's half a pot of witch soup left that can nourish the body. I'll heat it up for dinner later. It's very helpful for you young people. You two stay here and get to know each other better. I still have an important matter with the Great Plague Chief, so I'll see you later." After that, the Great Plague Chief picked up the witch in his arms and went back to his room. This kind of high-level battle would naturally cause a big commotion. The two young people sitting in the hall were also affected. Their faces were red as if they had suffered internal injuries. That, Mia blushed, and even her words became stuttering. "Let's go outside for a walk." Han Dong was in a good state. After all, he had heard about the story between the two big shots. Okay, Mia was too excited. When she got up, she accidentally bumped into the white bone ornament hanging in front of her. Thud! Like a personal item, half of his face that he always wore was knocked off. The right side of Mia's face was exposed. There were many strange markings on it, like a birthmark or some kind of special tattoo. With his special vision, Han Dong saw some black smoke on the surface of these markings. It should be some kind of curse mark. He didn't know why it was branded on Mia's right face. Because the right side of her face was exposed. A large number of small poisonous spiders crazily crawled out from the floor and the cracks in the walls. Mia hurriedly picked up the mask and put it back on. As the mask covered the marks, the spiders also turned into black smoke and disappeared. Mia was a bit nervous and wanted to explain. Han Dong was already standing outside the door, pretending that he hadn't seen or heard anything. He waved at her with a nonchalant expression. "Let's go." Chapter 168. It was difficult for Han Dong to be interested in the opposite sex. This characteristic had been proven a long time ago. This was also why Han Dong refused Mia's friendly help many times on the way to the swamp. Because Han Dong could feel that once he was entangled with her, it would be difficult to get rid of her. Of course, there was another important reason why Han Dong didn't want to have a deep relationship with Mia. But now, under the witch's intervention, the two were forced to form a relationship. But the moment when Mia's mask fell off, Han Dong showed an unfriendly and strange smile, as if he had other thoughts. At the edge of the island where the witch apprentice was, there was a twisted tree about 10 meters tall. Mia led the way and quickly climbed up. She sat on a thick branch that could support the weight of 10 people, and at the same time, she greeted Han Dong at the bottom and signaled him to climb up. "Your body, do you need my help?" Mia suddenly remembered that Han Dong was very thin and weak, and it might be difficult for him to climb this 10 meters tall tree. No need. Unexpectedly, Han Dong only relied on his right arm, and with his sharp nails dug into the bark, he pulled his body up quickly. When he sat on a branch, he deliberately separated himself from Mia by a person's width. Just now, did you see it? Mia still had lingering fears about the mask falling off. It seemed that the secret of the right side of her face was a knot in her heart, and she didn't want anyone to see it. Everyone has their own secrets. It's normal. Han Dong didn't care at all. If she wanted to take out all the secrets, Han Dong was definitely bigger than her. "No, my secret is not something good." When talking about this matter, Mia's face was sad, and her fingers gently brushed the half mask covering her face, as if she was thinking of some sad past. Some kind of curse? Han Dong was also interested. In the hidden little magic, I faintly saw some black gas on the surface of the mark. It was dangerous and fatal. Moreover, when the mark was exposed to the air, a terrifying spider domain was immediately generated. It was very strange. Mia, who was branded with the curse, did not seem to be affected at all. At least, Mia's physical condition was not much different from a normal person's. When Han Dong uttered the word curse, Mia was shocked. How can you tell? Han Dong shrugged and replied with a calm expression. Didn't I just say it? Everyone has their own secrets. I have mine too, and it's not a good thing. These words were like an invisible finger that just happened to touch Mia's heartstrings. Mia bit her lips slightly. She couldn't help but rub her fingers back and forth. She slowly moved her body, trying to get half a body's length closer to Han Dong. Can we exchange secrets? I'll say a little, and then you'll say a little. Han Dong didn't even think about it before he decisively rejected her. No, but if you're willing to share with me one-sidedly, I'd be happy to listen. Mia pouted angrily. Why are you like this? I'm not going to tell you. Han Dong didn't reply. He just sat quietly on the tree branch. How about this? Mia seemed to have thought of a very good idea. HM? Anyway, Teacher Kalangio wants us to stay in the Witch Academy for a day. The matter between teacher and the Great Plague Elder might last for a long time. How about we have a duel? The loser will reveal the secret. Just say it if you want to. It's not like I don't want to listen. I'm so angry. I'm just asking if you dare to have a duel with me. There's an open combat area in the Witch Academy. Whoever loses will agree to one request or the other. All right. Han Dong didn't have much to do. He just happened to be interested in Mia's curse. At the same time, he could use Mia as a benchmark to see his current abilities and what standard he had reached as an apprentice knight. Under Sophia's lead, the two of them arrived at a damp and spacious combat area at the bottom of the academy. This is the area where us witch apprentices practice all sorts of destructive black magic and combat practice. We will follow the basic rules of the apprentice knight's duels. No fate items or one-time items are allowed until one side concedes. No. Come. Han Dong didn't seem to need any warm-up exercises. He could start any time. Mia's initial thought was to share some of her worries with Han Dong. She didn't expect that Han Dong would first touch her heart with just a few words. Then, he killed the conversation with just a few words. She was both moved and angry. Just as the two of them arrived at the underground training ground, which Kalangia seemed to have noticed the movements of the two juniors. While she was admiring her lover, she lightly tapped on a mirror at the end of the bed. The surveillance image of the underground training ground immediately appeared on the mirror. I arranged a room for them to be alone. I even put aphrodisiac powder in their tea. I purposely gave them a chance to understand each other. These two little fellows actually went to duel. I really don't understand the thinking of young people these days. It would be a waste if they don't take advantage of their youth to enjoy themselves. But then again, my dear, what do you think the outcome of the duel will be? The Great Plague which stared at the two people in the mirror and asked, This girl is this spider which you mentioned. That's right. Mia has a unique talent as a witch. Her misfortune at birth has become her strength at birth. Mia had cleared the 5-star newbie event and had even received 2 fate points due to her outstanding performance in the event. In the past few months, I have helped her activate her spider talent. She has no problem fighting above her level. In addition to her talent in black magic and herbology, she will definitely become a unique and outstanding witch in the future. The witch gave an extremely high evaluation of Mia when talking about her. This was also why she wasn't particularly angry when Mia brought Han Dong to her door and interrupted her beautiful time with the Great Plague Witch. If it were any other witch apprentice, they would have been drowned in a pig cage. My dear, who do you favor? Is it that crow's disciple, or my student? Of course, someone chosen by black and white can't be bad. Since you chose this female apprentice, I will choose this kid. This kid will lose miserably. The witch had a certain opinion of Mr. Black and White, who was the head of the Great Plague Witch. Right now, her lover was lying on the same bed as her, and he was still calling her black and white in such an intimate manner. This made the witch very angry. She immediately created a stitch bat and sent a message to Mia, who was in the training ground. She told her to go all out and use her spider abilities to make Mr. Black and White's skinny disciple suffer a little. Chapter 169. You are about to face one of Mr. Black and White's special students. You will not be able to defeat her with just 2 or 3 normal spells. If necessary, you will need to undo a layer of the spider curse. Do not worry about going berserk. I will be watching the entire battle. If there are any problems, the Great Plague Master and I will stop you in time. If you have any hesitation in this battle and lose, I will be very disappointed. The bat's voice shocked Mia. She called Han Dong here just to vent her anger. She did not expect that the witch would suddenly pay attention to this battle and even ask her to use the power of curse. Mia was not willing to do so, because she could not fully control the power of curse. Once she used this power, she would fall into a frenzied state and could possibly seriously injure Han Dong. However, if she did not meet the witch's requirements, Mia would be severely punished. What's wrong? Han Dong, who was warming up, noticed something was wrong. No, nothing. It's just that you must be careful, Nicholas. I might use some abilities that even I can't fully control. I will be careful. The two of them placed all their destiny equipment and one-time use items in a corner. They stood 10 meters away from each other. Let's begin. The witch did not force Mia to use the power of curse at the beginning. At the beginning of the battle, Mia wanted to test Han Dong's ability with her occultism ability. Mia threw a small bag of lizard bone fragments into the air. The sorcerer's mark on the back of Mia's hand flashed. Immediately after, a dark energy flowed out from her palm and quickly wrapped around the lizard bone fragments that were thrown into the air. With the bone fragments as the core, a total of 10 dark bone arrows floated around Mia's body. It was a long-range offensive spell in the form of a carrier. This was the spell that Mia had mastered in the 3 months since she entered the school. This spell was fundamentally different from the long-range offensive spell that corresponded to the library. This type of carrier spell consumed very little energy. By wrapping a small amount of energy around a carrier, such as bones, bat wings, eyes, etc., and stimulating the carrier's internal energy, it used less energy to cause more damage. But the limitations were also very obvious. One needed to have enough materials. In the fate space, which restricted the carrying of foreign objects, the number of spells an apprentice could cast was extremely limited. It would be very dangerous if they encountered a powerful enemy in the early stages. Mia waved her hand. 10 dartbone arrows shot towards Han Dong. Its speed was comparable to an arrow shot by a professional archer. Within a second, it hit Han Dong, who was 10 meters away. However, the moment Mia waved her hand, she noticed that Han Dong didn't have any intention of dodging. Or rather, Han Dong's weak and small body simply couldn't dodge such a swift bow and arrow. Why aren't you dodging? You should be using plague energy to block it, right? Even the witches and the Great Plague Master who were watching the battle also thought that Han Dong would create a plague barrier, or he could directly use plague impact to offset the dark bone arrow. The next second, something unexpected happened. Whoosh! Han Dong waved his hand twice in a row. Crack, 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 crack. The sound of bones breaking. The lizard bone that was the carrier of the dark bone arrow was accurately cut off by the claw and fell to the ground. Because the carrier was destroyed, the dark magic energy covering the surface also dissipated. The spell was forcibly broken. This scene caused Mia's eyes to widen in disbelief. She was very clear about one thing. The lizard bone had an average length of 3 centimeters, and the dark bone arrow had an average length of 20 centimeters. The location of the carrier was uncertain. It could be at the head of the dark bone arrow, or it could be at the tail. In addition, the dark bone arrow was wrapped in a coat, so it was impossible to see the specific location of the carrier with the naked eye. 10 dark bone arrows were shot almost at the same time, and flying at high speed, it was impossible to identify the distribution of all the carriers at the same time and make a precise cut. If he missed, one of the dark bone arrows would definitely penetrate Han Dong's body, and the result of the battle would be decided. In other people's eyes, Han Dong's behavior was desperate, but from Han Dong's perspective, this was the simplest way to save the seed's energy. When he faced Pennywise the Clown, Han Dong's small magic, I could see through the 4 grasshopper legs that were attacking at high speed and cut them off one by one. 3 months of hard work. Facing this kind of ordinary dark magic attack. Even if his small magic eye was hidden in the dark and not fully opened, he could clearly see the basic structure and trajectory of the dark bone arrow, together with the super accurate attack from his special right arm. It was not a problem to break the carrier inside the dark bone arrow. Mia gritted her teeth and continued to throw out all kinds of strange witchcraft carriers from the cloth bag. At the same time, she also quickly ran and cast spells. She let the witchcraft attack Han Dong from different angles. Darkbone arrow, bat bomb, spirit snake. However, when this series of witchcraft got close to Han Dong, there was no sound of piercing or explosion. They were all accurately cut off by Han Dong and became ineffective. In any case, even if Mia increased her casting speed to the maximum, Han Dong still did not make any mistakes. He just waved his right arm and used his sharp claws to break all the witchcraft attacks. How'd he do it? Mia, who was panting, temporarily stopped attacking. Her face was full of disbelief. It's not just his right arm. He also has some hidden skills. If this continues, I will lose. In the field of witchcraft, these are the only offensive spells that Mia knew. The rest of her spells were auxiliary in the creation of herbs. If this continued, she would lose this battle due to the exhaustion of energy. Mia gritted her teeth and pressed her hand on the mask, activating the hidden curse. A wisp of black and purple gas overflowed from the inside of the mask and gradually spread throughout her body. Crunch, 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 the sound of joints twisting. Mia's body was twisting abnormally and horribly, for large lumps gradually protruded from her back, making Mia look like a hunchback. There were also barbs on each of her joints, which was an inhuman mutation of the curse. Mia seemed to be in pain during this process. She screamed, and the veins on her forehead bulged. Han Dong did not intend to take the initiative to attack at all. He just waited quietly. It was as if he was deliberately waiting for Mia to show her real ability. It was not that Han Dong was arrogant, but it was premeditated. Whoosh! The clothes on Mia's back were torn by the swollen flesh. A total of 4 dark spider legs with purple spots grew out crazily. The spider legs were sharp and wrapped with cursed black gas. One stab by the spider legs, it would be infected with a fatal curse. Besides, Mia's fingernails grew correspondingly and were wrapped with the same black gas. The barbs on each of her joints were also dangerous, more importantly. Overall attributes increased greatly. With the assistance of the 4 legs on her back, coupled with the fact that she was endowed with spider consciousness, Mia's movement was almost the same as a spider. In the crawling position, her movement speed was beyond imagination, and there was even a dragging phenomenon. This was the effect of the mysterious curse. Moreover, she was still wearing the mask on her face. This was only the first stage of the curse. Of course, Mia was still unable to control the first stage. Her eyes were covered with a turbid aura, and she was slightly manic. Chapter 170. So fast. With Mia's original 4 limbs, it was equivalent to having 8 legs to crawl on the ground. Moreover, the spider's legs were very flexible and powerful. Carrying Mia, who was light, the speed of crawling exceeded the human limit. Moreover, Mia could use the barbs at her joints to pierce into the ground and make some rapid turns. In short, her mobility was greatly increased. If I'm hit, the curse will probably affect me. I'll try my best to suppress her without injuring her. He maintained a distance of 5 meters from her. Mia circled Han Dong as fast as she could, trying to find a blind spot and an opportunity to kill him in one shot. Mr. Han Dong, do you need me to make a move? As if sensing danger, Chun Li, who was practicing evil techniques in the prison, took the initiative to send him a voice transmission. No need. There's something wrong with this girl. I need to confirm something myself. Okay, be careful, sir. Just as Han Dong's consciousness was connected to Chun-Li's, he was slightly distracted. A murderous intent swept over him. Mia, in her spider form, seized this opportunity. She found a blind spot behind him and quickly attacked. Her 4 sharp spider legs, which were surrounded by the aura of the curse, tried to pierce Han Dong's body when they were within striking distance. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The sharp spider legs stabbed out fiercely like spears. Every attack was aimed at a spot that was not easy to dodge, and there were even some preemptive movements that were extremely difficult to dodge. However, no matter how hard he tried, he was unable to hit Han Dong. Although Han Dong's body looked small and thin, he was able to dodge every attack at the critical moment. He even seemed to be able to do it with ease. What's that? In the bedroom on the top floor, the witch and the Great Plague Master had temporarily stopped their activities because of the intense battle between the two juniors. The witch noticed an important detail. Just as Mia was in her spider form, Han Dong also underwent a small change. An eye grew between Han Dong's eyebrows. Sensory sutures? Mr. Black and White's masterpiece? No, this is not an ordinary eye. Is it a fusion of a crow and a human eye? That wasn't right either. Due to the existence of this eye, this kid's perception had received a huge boost. So much so that he could see through the carriers of black witchcraft and see through the spikes. This eye, where did it come from? In contrast to the witch's amazement, the Great Plague Chief remained silent. He naturally knew where the eye came from. It was this eye that helped the Knights of Pestilence decipher the important treasure map. Staring at Han Dong's proficient use of in battle without any pollution leaking out, the Archmage of Pestilence smiled knowingly. In 3 months, I can already use this eye skillfully. Even Kalangia couldn't see the problem. As expected of the young man chosen by the Black and White, being able to control pollution is also a good thing. After the Great Plague Chieftain finished his mental exercise, he said, "Perception is one aspect. To be able to nimbly dodge such a fierce attack shows that his physical fitness is not bad, especially his nerve reflexes. 3 months ago, he was still a weak little guy who was seriously dragging us down." That was right. The reason why Han Dong could dodge every spider leg's piercing was mainly because of his little magic eye. When Mia used the power of the curse, Han Dong also turned on his cheat, facing the spider leg's piercing attacks one after another. Han Dong only needed to continuously see through. He fed the trajectory of the spider leg's piercing attacks to his brain in time. After the brain processed the information and provided the best dodging route, his body made the corresponding dodging movements. Eyes, brain, body functions. None could be missing. All of a sudden, Mia's movements suddenly sped up in an attempt to break the balance. At the same time, she used her mouth to try to bite Han Dong's most dangerous part of his body, his right arm. This sudden change disrupted Han Dong's dodging movements. She changed speed. Hidden under his sleeve, a sarcoma seemed to be wriggling on his right arm. Han Dong's brain worked extremely fast. He reacted in 0.1 seconds and switched from defense to offense. Boom! In the face of Mia's biting mouth, Han Dong's right arm seemed to have become bigger than usual. His palm was the size of a professional basketball player, just enough to hold Mia's face with his 5 fingers. Great strength. The difference in strength was very obvious. Han Dong offset the speed of Mia, who was in spider form, in a horizontal direction. Bang! He pressed her heavily to the ground. If the training ground wasn't made of loose soil, but cement instead, the back of Mia's head would definitely be smashed open by this knock, even if it was soft soil. But because the back of her head was hit, Mia fell into a state of confusion for a while and temporarily lost her ability to move. Of course, there was a price to pay for switching from defense to offense. 2 sharp spider legs brushed Han Dong's body. One spider leg scratched his waist and abdomen, injuring the dermis. As a result, a purple-black curse mark appeared on the wound. However, for some reason, The curse could not spread in Han Dong's body. The other leg cut open the sleeve of his right arm. Through the cut in the sleeve, a thick arm with skin covered with meridians could be vaguely seen hidden inside. A terrifying giant eye could even be faintly seen on the arm near the shoulder. Similarly, the curse at the cut could not spread in Han Dong's arm. As some tentacles wriggled in the wound, the curse was slowly absorbed. The outcome has been decided. Han Dong could have crushed Mia's head with the strength of his right arm, while her consciousness was in turmoil. Mia was affected by the curse and became manic. But the mask was still on her face. She was still in the first stage. She still had a part of her consciousness and could barely control herself. She knew very well that she had lost this competition. She had lost after trying her best. Even if the witch would scold her, she would not be too strict. The curse was lifted. The spider legs on her back and the barbs on her joints gradually turned into black smoke and returned under the mask. The power of the curse was completely sealed again. The turbidity in Mia's eyes dissipated. Han Dong also retracted his right arm and returned it to its normal size. At the same time, the suture bats created by the witch to watch the battle exploded. It seemed that the witch was not in a good mood. She no longer monitored the situation in the training ground and was ready to vent her anger on the body of the Great Plague patient. Mia, who was pressed into the soil, had a weak expression. Sweat the size of beans kept dripping from her forehead. She stammered, You're so powerful. I'm sorry. I used a little too much force. You should be able to stand up by yourself, right? Although Han Dong apologized, he turned around and retreated a distance away. He had no intention of supporting Mia at all. His seemingly straight action had other intentions. Yes. Mia lay on the ground for half a minute before she recovered slightly and slowly got up. I lost. I'll keep my promise and tell you the secret of my curse. To their surprise, Han Dong scanned the surroundings with his little magic eye and waved his hand coldly. Don't worry. There's no need. In any case, what you say won't be the truth. I remember that you said before that you can make a request to the other party based on the outcome of this match, right? Mia had a look of surprise. Han Dong continued. The witch did not continue monitoring this place. I'll be direct with you. Mia Simonovich, your acting skills still need to be improved. I only have one request. Don't pester me in the future, all right? The moment Han Dong said this, Mia, who had a weak and pitiful expression, instantly changed. Her black hair hung in front of her face, and she had a sickly expression. She stared at Han Dong with her lifeless black eyes. She revealed an extremely terrifying and twisted smile. Oh, when did you find out? You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.